All right, folks. How you doing? Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. Figured we get this party started here. Look at some of the comments here. So, and for those of you who had to go into Paranormal Roundtable, the group, I feel like I should probably address this. Nellie had posted something in that group, and that group is not PRT News, where we usually keep that kind of stuff, but she felt like this one was really egregious. And so the people who've been nonstop, just attacking nonstop, I usually wait until after the show to do this. I'm going to be doing a Rumble after this so that I can address some of these things. The stalking has escalated, and I'm going to give you all a rundown of what's been going on. And just going to lay it out there. I'm not going to do it here on the show. We got things we got to do. But the threats, the aggression, it's ramped up. And now it's to the point where it's at a fever pitch with these people. They have lost their minds, if that's even possible, if they ever even had it. And so I'm sorry, because some people have messaged me saying, hey, I didn't know it was like this. Okay, yeah, because you weren't in PRT News, I understand. And there's these people that's like, oh, I don't like drama, whatever. Bless you. But there's, like a friend of mine, Joe from Taylor, he posted today about people want to live their lives and not have to deal with drama. He's like, it doesn't matter. Drama's going to find you. It's going to do what it does. You're going to have to stand up at some point and be counted. So people that go running away and thinking it's going to change everything, it's not. It's not. I'm going to finish out this month, and then I'm going to reevaluate where I'm at with this, because, I'm just, I can't do, it's just these people, it's so vile and so gross. And I didn't even want it to be posted in Facebook because it's just, all the stuff that they say. And you can report them to Facebook, and Facebook does nothing. So go over there and take a look at what they say. Just give it a taste of what they do every day. When I say every day, folks, I'm not talking about, couple times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I'm talking 7 days a week. This is what they do. They don't work. I already said that. And the one that claims to work on roofs, he's been harassing my business partner to try to give him his job back. And I'm like, you're not going to circumvent me after everything you've done. And there are people that can attest to what he's done. And so, like I said, I'm not going to get into a big sermon, but I am sick and tired of being attacked. And so is my wife. And they are, yeah, there you go. These lunatics are obsessed. They attack Anthony and Maddie and me and Nellie. And I guess if it doesn't affect you, then you're just like, oh, well, you're happy. You're fine, right? But it affects us. And people say they like the show, they like the content, they like everything. Well, I'm not going to be able to keep doing it if this keeps I just can't, because I can't work a business and try to keep that going and fight this war and do these. It's just too much. It's a year and a half of this crap. And I'm going to give you guys that are doing all of this. Do you think that by driving me away like you did Bettina. You think that you're going to make your channels better? It's not going to work. It's your channels are still going to be what they are, smoking hot garbage. And as much as I like laughing and making fun and joking and whatever, I like it just like anybody else at the silly, stupid things that they say. It gets old. It's just every day with this crap. And I can take it better than a lot of people can. And there is no blocking and deleting because the ringleader has about 1,000 of these accounts. Now, that was Joe Doyle's suggestion that they from Helbin Holler. He said they had probably about 1,000 of them. I didn't really believe it at the time. Now I do. Because there's a new account every day. And now they've gone over to wherever I go to do a show with someone, they run over there and they troll and they make a mess. And then the people got to go clean it up. And it's just like, this is just madness. This is ridiculous. We've appealed to you. We've tried peace. We've tried everything we can. And they will not, they don't want it. What they want to do is troll. And so I'm going to lay it all out there tonight on Rumble. I'm going to say, and they aren't going to be happy about it because it's going to expose the nerves. I'm going to tell you. So we're not going to talk about it any further tonight. That's all I got to say about it on this show, on this channel. The live stream is obviously a lot different than, doing the whatever. But this is, it's not what this is for. We have a guest tonight. But, that was posted in PRT or in the Paranormal Roundtable group that has 10,000 people in there. I think it's like 9,400, 500, whatever it is. We haven't really tried to grow that group. We haven't put any effort really into it. So it's kind of the same people, but you guys know, and we have 40-something thousand subs on this channel. And that's pretty evident. When you go and look at the show I did it with Marzulli, I mean, there's like 52,000 views on that thing in 4 days. So, but if you guys want PRT to be around, if you want us to stick around, then, these people need to be reported. Facebook needs to do something. They put me in jail for 3 days because I asked somebody if they wanted to have me retell their stories because one of their friends was one of the moderators in there. So he reported me, and then Facebook put me in jail for 3 days for just that. It wasn't the person I sent the thing to. It was one of their mods. And I'm not going to say which group because the guy that was in charge of that group was very sorry, I believe. He was apologetic, and he, and I told him, I said, this hurts me because I got to, use social media to put my show, to advertise. And Facebook has decided I'm an enemy, but they are allowed to say and do whatever comes to their mind. Gross, disgusting things they say about people. And it's disgusting. And then they're on their show doing it, and they have been mass reporting us. We've been having to get YouTube to, come on, man. It's the same people. Can you not see? And then Facebook sends me an apology. They're like, oh, we're sorry. We missed that one. Yeah, you did. But I already did the time. I already did the 3 days, the ban. I mean, it's unbelievable. You're going to have your season. You're going to have your time. And then that time will be up. I promise you it will be. You talk a lot about God, but you don't know God. You really don't. You don't know the true God. And if you did, you wouldn't be doing what you do. So, going to do a Rumble tonight after the show, and I'm going to lay it out there. I got to do what I got to do. Those of you in Texas, I'm going to be at the conference tomorrow, the Lone Star Paracon. I didn't announce it too early because, people will make plans to run over there and try to mess with me, and I don't need that. So I'm going to go to the conference tomorrow. And, one of my friends is going to be there, and he's moving out of state, and that really sucks because he's one of my best friends, and told me this yesterday, and now I'm going to have to deal with that. So, gotta get a paper towel. There's water all over this. Thanks, Tony. I spilled coffee. So I'm also, if I'm speaking a little poignant, I got some other things going on that are unrelated to all of this. Just found out some things today from some relatives, and I'm just like that. I'm upset. I got a cousin who's in the hospital dying. Yeah, Miss Outspoken says, "Can we start off the show with a prayer?" We can, but I don't really feel much like praying right now. I don't know how good I'll be at leading you guys in a prayer right now. I'm just, I got a lot going on, so I don't want to throw off the vibe here, but I will. I'll pray. Let's do this. Father, I pray in the name of Christ. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Your will be done, Lord God. I ask that you help us, all of us, heal our hearts, Lord God. And I'm asking you once again, as I do every day, Father, to please stop these enemies from doing the things that they do. Only you can change their ways, Lord God, and stop them from the course that they're on. Please take the evil out of their hearts, Lord God, and change it. And please help me to have the strength and the will to keep going and do what I got to do. Please help Nellie, Anthony, Tony, and all those others involved. But please, in the name of Jesus, we ask these things. Your will be done. Amen. So let's do this. Let's get this going here. Let me get my earbuds in. Sorry about that, Danielle. I didn't mean to start the show off with a real negative thing. Wasn't trying to. It just things are going a certain way, and like the last few days has just been just getting kicked in the teeth over and over again, and it just keeps happening. And I just keep having to deal with it. And then, it's my businesses, things aren't going great. And so it's like everything happening at once. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring you onto this. I was not going to say anything until after, but the post was made in Paranormal Roundtable, and I don't see how people can do and say the things that they do and get away with it. I just don't see. There's no parameters there, for Facebook and YouTube, unless it's us for some reason. We're getting policed hard, and these people are just allowed to run roughshod. And it leads me to believe that there's a greater presence at play here. This is not, one of my really good friends. He just told me yesterday. He was like, "There's a consciousness behind this, and it's evil, and it's pulling the strings." And I really believe that when Christ says you deal with principalities in high places, these kind of people go unpunished. And I think that these people they're given a free pass. I was told by the FBI to pursue protective orders against them, at least a couple of them, and it's pretty much all you can do. So, other than wasting a bunch of money trying to sue people, and it's just that don't have anything to take, so they're able to circumvent that. So they don't build or do anything, so they just destroy what you've built. So that's what's going on. So I apologize for that and bringing you on into this, because some days I just don't feel like going or getting out of bed or doing anything, but I do it anyway. How have you been? Can you hear me, Danielle? I don't know if you can hear me.
Well, I'm listening very carefully everything that you're saying. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me on your show. I did have a chance to meet you personally in Texas last year. I think you and your family and your wife are amazing people looking to spread the truth, to look out for paranormal answers, to help the best you can. That's my experience, and I can only say the best about your show, and about your family. That's personally from my side here what I can say about you, and I can say it's an honor to be on your show. So thank you for that. I've been very busy, to be honest to you. Just as you were sending me the invite, I was dealing with, because I'm on call, I was looking how to figure out some issues with the patients or the residents that I'm taking care of, because I'm basically working there as a behavioral interventionist. So I'm working on the safety plan and the issues with that. So that's what I can tell you about that. So very busy working on publishing two books. One is already in the process. That one is my great bro, Texas Front Porch, and I'm sure that you know Big Tex.
Oh,
That
yeah. Good.
will be a crime story, Infamous Minds, about different criminal stories and everything. The other one is about the history about Count Dracula, about true story about Count Dracula, not Dracula, but it's Count Dracula originally on Romanian and Slavic, what it's saying basically, son of a dragon, far away from the Hollywood. So that's where I am right now.
Hmm. There seems to be a little bit of feedback, and the sound is a little bit off, and I can't reach it. I'm trying to see if I can adjust it. Maybe turn down your mic just a little bit or something, so the feedback isn't as bad. And the connection seems to be kind of choppy.
Sure, no problem.
See if we can make it a little better.
How are you doing now?
Uh, Sounds about the same, but it's not like it's not a deal breaker. We can make it work. So when we talked yesterday, you were talking about werewolves, alien abduction, Bigfoot. What do you want to when we were
Yes.
messaging? So what do you want to start with? I mean, you have a channel, you have a show.
Oh,
You want to tell everybody about that, about the show, about what you do?
sure. So I entered this field long time ago. I must say, I wasn't on the social media or anything like that, but I'm born with a gift and with a curse. That's how I call it, because I can see and feel the things that many don't. For you, this is paranormal, Mr. Josh. For me, this is my normal life. I see
Mhm.
shadow people, I see spirits, I see ghosts. The worst thing is it that you can see the things in advance. For example, illness and things like that that can scare you. Um, I had encounter for first time, and that was my only time with the Bigfoot in 2017 in a Jasper National Park, and I reported that to the rangers here in Canada, and I'll never forget that. That kind of made me go deeper into the paranormal field, found more creatures that I was kind of experiencing and seeing myself. I got connected to a really great friend. I know he's watching right now, medicine man John, that I really do love and respect. He is from our tribe here in Canada, from Nakota tribe. I learned a lot from him, and this is something that it's part of me. So I experience many, gosh, many things that you call paranormal. They're normal to me.
Mhm. Well, I don't think I experience it on the level that you do, but I definitely I deal with it quite a bit. And I think that there's something where we're at now. And it's odd because when we first went and looked at the house that we're staying in now, we didn't, Nellie had something that she thought, but I didn't feel anything too negative. And now in the last couple of weeks, we've been getting some things happening at our house, and but I believe that it's been sent there because it doesn't make any sense that all of a sudden it just starts, you know. So there's been some activity. It's been an upshoot in activity, and yesterday I think I saw something.
You don't mind if I stop you there?
Go ahead.
Because what I feel there is an entity in your home. There is not one, but two things. There is two things that are sent by the people that you know.
Yeah.
And this thing is actually opening, closing the doors. It's playing the tricks on you. Sometimes you wake up like heavy and somebody's sitting on your chest. It's paralyzing. You're taking the energy from you while you're sleeping. I would be a little bit concerned for your kids because it's really, I don't know your children. So I just want to say to everybody, I only saw Mr. Josh out of Texas. I don't know his family, but he's targeting the youngest.
Yeah.
And there is a door that he's
I think
targeting the youngest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably correct.
So when I cut you off, it's not on purpose because I feel these things, so I want to share. And
Yeah.
I think you need to do the blessing of the home. You need to do sage. And I can share some things after. I can text you something privately that can help you out.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've had some stuff happening. Yesterday I was sitting there talking to Anthony, who's the oldest, and I was talking to him, and I thought that it was him. And the dog was on the end of the bed and was like moving towards him, and so he was in the room, and he was like, on the corner, and he was talking. I thought he had come into our room, and he was standing there, and I was talking to him, and it wasn't him. There was nothing there. So I turned and I was looking at my phone, and I was like, so I called him. I said, "Hey, Anthony." And he comes from his room, and I said, did you just come in here and leave really quick? Because when I turned and looked, I thought that he had laid down on this. We had this giant beanbag that my wife got, and I like that thing. It was for her, but I kind of hijacked it. I like to do my breathing exercises on it every day. And so I thought that he had laid down on the beanbag at the foot of the bed, but I thought that was odd. I was like, why would he just walk in our room, not say anything, and then just lay down on the beanbag? And it didn't make any sense. There was no reason for him to go in there. And so I turned, and there was nobody there. And then this morning, I was with, Anthony, Nellie, and Tony, and we were talking, and they were talking, and they were pulling some stuff out of the closet or whatever. They were helping her. And I just, I heard what I thought was another person that lives with us. He rents a room from us. I thought he was coming home from work, but we have this alarm that beeps, beep, 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 somebody opens the door. And I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the beep, 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 but I heard the footsteps going up the stairs and then coming down the hallway. And I was like, and so I'm not going to lie. I grabbed my firearm and was like, I just announced, look, I'm armed. And this is, I thought I really thought there was somebody in my house, like moving around.
Yeah.
So then about 30 minutes later,
Yeah.
he actually comes in, and then he peeks his head in and just kind of waves and goes to the restroom. And then when he comes back out, he was in his room for a few minutes, and then he comes out, and then he comes back and tells me that he thought he heard somebody walking around downstairs, and somebody was walking up down the stairs. And he was like, and I told him, I said, I thought you had come in earlier. So we had this thing going on. And if I'm downstairs, there's a restroom downstairs, I'll go in there and I'll hear somebody come up to the door. And I'm like, and like I said, this wasn't from day one. This didn't happen when we first moved in. It wasn't happening. Now it is. So I'm pretty sure that it's been sent by these people, because I know now that the ringleader of this group is actually, he really truly is a Satanist. I know this because they would joke around with these fake accounts saying "Hell Satan" and all this other stuff. And we know he is. We know now, because one of the things that they've been trying to do is find this witch's circle or a fairy circle. And that was told to us by someone who's now deceased, but they both told us this. And so, I wasn't shocked at all to find that out. So that was pretty much par for the course. And so, yeah. And yeah, Maddie just says that his fake accounts, they follow a bunch of occult channels, and what they're doing
Right.
is they're looking for power. They want the power and they don't have it. If it doesn't come to you naturally, I don't believe you're supposed to pursue this. Now, you were born this way. I had, ojo dotado, as they say in
No.
Spanish, the eye,
No.
and I've always been able to sense things, not always see them, because I kind of walled it off when I was a kid because I didn't like being freaked out. But after I saw what I saw, with what they call the dog man, I call it a werewolf, but they say it's a creature, whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know what I believe at this point, but um, it kind of opened everything back up, because just 2 years later, I had an encounter with this man, I guess, whatever, with these black dogs. And one of the guys that was with me, he actually came on
Mhm.
the show and talked about it. And then it just went from there. I ended up in a house that was haunted. I lived there for years, and my brother's helping me write a book about it. And so it just goes on and on, you know. I've watched some of your show now. I watched the true
Yes.
crime thing you do too with Text. Pretty interesting. Infamous Minds. And I was listening to you talk the other day, and you were talking about the state of affairs in the world and where we're at, and how evil everything has gotten, and how bad it is. It's like, if there's ever a time to get yourself right with God, this is the time. But yeah, this is
Yes.
where we're at. So you've had this gift since you were born.
Mm. Yes. So, Josh, I must tell you something. The first thing, it's very important. If anybody uh, has something and feel as a child, I don't want you to ignore your children's gift. Of course, if there's some mental issues like, voiding the bed or stuff like that, we're talking about some trauma in a house, child abuse, domestic violence, that's also very common. But if we're talking the child is coming to you and saying that they're seeing the things, please pay attention to that. I must say to you, Josh, and I still have a wonderful mother. So I was capable always saying to her what I would see. And my first, if I can say, public and big, if I can say, wisdom, what's going to happen and prophecy was my father getting hurt. Um, my father and everybody from his side was getting angry, and they were calling me a witch and everything. Well, my mama took me on the side and she said to me, "No, you're like your great grandmother, and your great grandmother had the same gift like you. So don't talk to everybody. Come and talk to me." So I had that since I was a child. And then my sister, my little sister, she's younger than me, but she realized that I can see and feel the things. So she always supported me. So I'm blessed that after that, I had two women that supported me through all of my visions and the things that I see. In my book, The Magic of the Spirit Lake, I did explain all of my visions and some things even that I saw how my mother, and that's why I'm saying, Josh, this is also a curse. Imagine 3 to 4 years prior to your mother getting a cancer, you see that in the vision. And I'm saying to her, "Mama, you're going to go through something very horrible. This is what's happening." And I knew it. So, but I cannot stop it because I cannot stop what's going to happen, but I can only see. What I see in my dreams, or what I see or feel something, it's very real. And it's what I'm saying, I'm always staying 100% behind it. So for me, this is something that is genetical because my great grandmother also had it. And she helped people. So when I read cards to people, when I do the reading, or they ask me, what kind of blessing of the home or something. I had a couple people that they asked me to find basically the missing people, and I did that. I did that with Sean. I did with more than a couple people. I tell them where to look, and I was capable even describing how the person of interest they look like. So I will report that. They'll give that to police and etc. So I never did this for money. I did this because my gift was given from above, from the God, to help people. It wasn't given to me to actually, gain money on it. And when people ask for my help, I openly say yes if I can help. If not, I have my good friends, that are, for example, my Cherokee friend or my Nakora friend or my other great friend from Toronto or Washington, where we connect. And if I'm seeing that maybe they have more wisdom or more strength in that side, I'll say, this is who you can talk to. So for me, Josh, this is my life. But I saw shadow people. I saw death. I saw basically little people, or people you guys call them brownies. Uh, I saw many, if I can say, different creatures shifting. So those are all of the ones that I saw my entire life. And then while I was getting really instructed by this lady that is from Cherokee tribe, who's also a really good wizard, if we can say, she said to me, Danielle, you cannot escape this. This is your gift. This is what you should continue with. And that's what I did. So I always go first for a scientific answer, and then I go for paranormal answer, because sometimes, things can go together. But what you describing to me, what's happening, it's basically hunting of the home. So when you have a lots of violence inside of the home, so I don't mean just like a violent somebody coming in, I mean fights, arguments, negative energy, somebody pressuring you, jealousy, envy, all of this can bring the negative energy upon the home, and it can destroy home's aura. And like my friend John said, the medicine man from the Cody tribe, he said that's when the home needs to be protected and you need to cleanse your home. And you usually do the sage. You can use white sage. You go clockwise. Every room, especially if you have a basement, it has to be cleansed from top to bottom. You should use the holy water. Every entrance of the door should be placed the cross of the holy water and the holy oil. And then the holy water for 7 days, you drink, and as you wash your hair with the soap, of course, you wash yourself, then you use that holy water, and at least a one little cup. I'm not saying it has to be liters of water, toss over yourself so that you can cleanse all the negative energy. Um, Sometimes certain objects can be given to you. So if somebody sends you something, it can be, giving the negative energy or the spells to your home. Spells can be done through the pictures. It can be done basically. Now we have social media, so the pictures are pretty easy, accessible anywhere. If you have a good, if I can say, negative soul and you have some craft, good luck. I work with some people, and Josh, just like you say, after I helped them, they stabbed me in the back. I wasn't good anymore.
Yeah.
And what's okay? I'm not angry. I wish everybody the best. I just walk away. But some of them, I saved their butts even from the highest prosecution. And I think you get what I'm saying when I'm saying the highest prosecution. And I did it out of the love and out of the care, because I care and I love and I protect people. There's people, and like you're saying, in your own family that you help with, and then after that they stab you in the back because after you help them, you are not good anymore. So I want you to know that you're not alone, that this happens to everybody, my friend. And we are in that kind of era right now where we do have fight between light and darkness, we like it or not. I do a research on the prophecies and the prophecy studies, signs and symbols. I meet regularly with some people that are part of the Knights Templars, and we do a lot of studies. And lately, I just started a new channel, and with Dr. Basically Dennis. Me and him, we are not here, and we are not there, I should say, to have billions of the followers. We're just there because we want to share the true prophecy and the signs and the symbols that all of us need to know what's out there and what's gonna come. So it's up to you. Get closer spiritually, wash yourself, be honest, repent, because judgment is coming.
Mm-hmm. It is, and the sad thing is, yes, it is a war. There's a war between dark and light, and the lines get blurred. And I'll tell you how, because the people that are evil just speak words and they lie and say we're the good guys, but I encourage everybody to look at their works. You're supposed to be able to judge these people by their works. Now, I'm not saying to go around and judge everyone and be like, I'm better than you, because
No.
that's what they do. but you need to look at their works and who do they help? Who have they done anything for? All they do is attack people and backstab people. And if you're around those kind of people long enough, it's going to happen. They're going to, you see it too. And I tell people all the time, there's people in their own family and they'll be nursing this viper. And I'm telling you, when the viper strikes them, they'll say things like, well, it happened to me and I forgive, I move on, whatever. But the thing is, you can nip that in the bud before that viper strikes you, because they're not just going to bite you. They're going to go on and they're going to bite someone else and someone else and someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So the serpent doesn't stop. And never underestimate the levels that they're willing to stoop, because they're already slithering around the ground like a snake. I mean, they're just as low as you can get. And people, they have this tendency to ignore things, especially if they think it's not directly concerning them, or if it's not directly affecting them. Then they think, well, we can just ignore this. But, we as a community here, and I'm not saying this because I want people to come fight for me. I don't need people to fight for me. What I'm telling you right now is you're going to have to all fight for yourself, because if you see people getting attacked and it just keeps happening over and over and over and over again, then yeah, there's people that we need to like ostracize, shun, can remove them like a cancer. And it's very simple, for the people that are standing on the sidelines, don't just stand on the sidelines. Help. We've lost people now that have been driven from this field because of this. I mean, I can't believe it. They just give up. They're just like, I can't do this. This is too hostile. My first partner that I started this with, before he passed away from, during the, whatever. But he was like that. He just let these people drive him, and I just said, well, I'm not leaving. I have work to do. And I really feel like this is a calling. And I can tell you right now, we're not making a ton of money. We're not. I mean, we're just getting by enough to do the show, and we're not lighting, the sky on fire here, but we have a pretty good following. And I believe in what I do. I believe in this. This is not a game to me. You were at my second conference. There was a lot of people there, and I didn't make a dime because of how much I spent. We actually ended up, about $3,000 negative for that conference. But I was happy to do it because, this is, and then these people, they take the images from the conference, and a couple of them were there, and they turned, a few of them actually, and they turned it on me and turned it against me like it was a bad thing, like I had done something. These were people that were paid. They were taken care of. Nobody did them wrong or did anything, and they still are willing to say bad things and negative things because there's a jealousy in their heart.
Yeah.
And you can't break it. There's nothing you can do. You try to appeal to them, you try to talk to them, but they're not there anymore. It's something else that's there talking through them, and they're just as demonically obsessed and to another degree possessed to do whatever it is that they're going to do as any werewolf or vampire I've ever heard of, because these people will do the exact same thing to you. And eventually
because they're energized in medical field, they're called actually energy vampires. So what they're doing, they're taking away your energy, Josh. You are very positive, not to cut you off to be disrespectful. You are very positive, strong character. So what is happening at this time, these people are feeding on your energy. So this is not sucking your blood, but it's sucking your energy, sucking your goals, your basically ideas, everything that you're dreaming on. So as they're taking that energy away, they're putting you down, they're making themselves satisfied. So I always say, when you're around basically negative people, you need, of course, we cannot avoid everybody, but try your hardest to avoid the people that, well, I'm talking about the living, breathing people, will take your energy away. The people that taking your energy away will be also affecting your job, your show, your personal life, because it's a chaos and it's just going in a circle. It never stops. So you have to remove one by one. It's better to have one friend, and even, let's say, for example, your wife, your spouse, she's there, she's loving you, she's supporting you, but she's there. She gave a birth of beautiful children to you, this is the one that you
If
can
we don't have,
trust.
they're not
Then
our children. They're my nephews.
yeah, forgive me, but it doesn't matter. Still, children are gift
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
God. Here and there, it doesn't matter. And you have everything in that family as a unity to love. Then you see who can be the outsider that can
Mhm.
join, because not everybody can join into that small circle. I learned that myself, because I'll tell you why. Uh, and I even started teaching my mom. I'm gonna be honest. This is 70-year-old woman. I learned the hard way, because I would go by emotions. I feel sorry for you. Then I would start crying. Oh, it doesn't matter what you did to me before. I'm going to try to help you. I'm going to do this. And then when I do that at the end, like you're saying, I get stabbed in the back, I get hurt, I got damaged, I feel sorrow, and I feel piece of me is missing. So I decided now that I'll first take care of my family and my closest friend first, then others come when they prove to me that they can join into that really small circle of trust and love.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't trust. And people, I want you to know, I'm not saying don't trust. Don't make. I have a lots of friends, a lots of people that I love. I have many followers on the Facebook. I'm really close to many people, but you cannot trust to everybody, because, like you're saying, they'll turn the back and they may send something to your home, and it can be your loved one too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a tough road. I mean, since this whole thing has been going on, I've I've had a couple of my close friends and relatives just disconnect because there's too much chaos, and I just can't. One of my close relatives, we're still, but we don't talk very much because he couldn't handle like all the stuff that was going on, and he just was like, I can't. It's just he's got his own bad anxieties,
Yeah.
and it's like he can't take it. So he couldn't be around, and it's just I am pretty strong. Like I can these people would it's like it's not so much affecting me as it's affecting those around me. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
is what affects me. Like if it was just
Yes.
me and I didn't have my family, it would be a whole other ball game, because back in the day when I was working downtown and doing, whatever, I didn't have my family around. I had friends around me, but I didn't let anybody know anything about my family. They mostly all lived in another town, and I was up here by
Mhm.
myself. It was just me and my brother, and I didn't have anyone else. It was just us, and I didn't
Yeah.
bring. Later, my cousin joined us, but I didn't bring anybody else around, and we were very strict about not talking about my parents, not talking about my
Yeah.
siblings, not talking about my cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, because that can be used against you. It becomes an Achilles
Yes.
heel because these people were dangerous people. They could get upset with you for any little reason. Much like a fairy or a fae, they'll start off being cool, but they get offended very easily, and then they turn into a big problem. And that is just like people. They're very
Mhm.
much finicky, and if they see you doing better than them, as we say in Spanish, they become celoso, and then they turn into chismoso, which is like gossiping, talking, and then it becomes a problem. And then, you next thing you know, you have what you thought was a friend, and now there's a snake on your doorstep. And that's happened more times than I can count in my life. So I just had to disconnect.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. So when Anthony was actually growing up until he was in his teens, I wasn't around very much, and he didn't know where I was at or what I was doing. He knew who I was. Obviously, he'd see me at Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, but I just would bring presents and then go. And he asked me one day, years later, he's like, "Where were you all
Yeah.
those years?" And I told him. I said, "Well, I was overseas, and then I did, strangely enough, I've been to like several different places, pretty much every continent but Antarctica, but I haven't been to 11 different states in the Northeast. And so, with my friend now leaving to go
Mhm.
live up there in upstate New York, I've decided that that's going to be my target this summer. I may just decide to take a trip up there and go state to state and just do some on the road, boots on the ground, whatever you want to call it, whatever these people are calling it these days, and just go to locations and then maybe interview some people and turn it into a little on the road documentary, because I need to recharge. I need to get myself back to where I was once. And now these people have taken a lot from me. My energy has been drained. And it's not doing me any good financially. So I may just put the show on hold for like a month and just take a trip this summer. In fact, I'm planning it right now, and I'm going to see. Somebody says, come chill in Boston. Lawrence, I would love to. I'm a huge Red Sox fan, and I'm also a Celtics fan. So Celtics are my team right behind my Texas teams. And if the Celtics are doing good, I'll be rooting for them. If my Texas teams are doing good, I'm rooting for them. But I love the Boston sports scene. Even the Bruins are pretty cool. But I could have maybe been in a Bostonite in a past life. I've always wondered that. I wondered that because I used to have dreams. Now, this is something I wanted to throw at you. Now that we're talking about this, somebody said this is a good segue. You know about a lot of this stuff. So I had this recurring dream that I had for years.
Sure.
And I'm going to tell you what it was. Okay.
Please.
I don't think I've told this on the show. I might have. I've talked about a lot of weird stuff on here. But this is something that happened to me over and over again. And when I was in my early 20s, when I was 25, and then again when I was 30, it seemed like every 5 years I would dream these weird dreams. It was like in 5 years cycles. But this one started the first time I had this when I was 20. I remember where I was living. I remember everything about it. And that's a weird thing too. There used to be a guy that lived in the apartment that I lived in before me. This is a weird thing, right? This is a weird synchronicity. And he called himself Wolf. Because I think he moved in, he moved in after me. And when I moved out of that place, there was a bike that I had left there. And I just, it was missing the front wheel because I needed to get it fixed. And I just didn't have time to mess with it. I was working all the time. So I left it there. And then this guy started showing up downtown where I was working. And it was a really weird thing. His nickname was Wolf. And there was this girl that used to come to our club, her and her boyfriend, and they were talking to him outside, and they called him Wolf. And I was like, did you just call him Wolf? And I met this guy. And so and this is true. You can actually look this up, probably the newspaper. I don't know. But anyway, his name was something Martinez or something like that. They called him Wolf. Well, he murdered, unalive, whatever you want to say. I was a young girl named Kirsa Paul. He murdered her at the what's it called? The Greenbelt. He murdered her when I was working downtown. And when the nickname came up, Wolf, well, the police, they went and they thought I worked at this other bar, but there were my friends who worked over there, and they told them, that's but they knew this guy. Like everybody knew this guy because he was always downtown. I didn't know that this little weirdo had adopted that nickname because of me. I thought that he was just he'd had that nickname or whatever, but apparently he had actually moved into the apartment that I used to live, which is bizarre. And he took that bike because when I saw him on the bike one day, when he would walk by the club, and he never was rude or mean or anything to me. And I would tease him. I'd be like, you're gonna have to fight me for my nickname, but everybody knew who I was. They didn't really know this guy. And I didn't realize that he was a weird reclusive guy. I don't know anything about him. He was kind of a goth dude. And he had that bike. And I said, that looks like mild mountain bike. Like, what do you know? And then this is a weird thing. And so he ends up, murdering this girl. Now, I didn't know her. I didn't know anything about her, but he took her life, and then, he got caught, and they went after him, and the police had come in and talked to me. And of course they just wanted me to have, to clear my name, to make sure to have an alibi.
Yeah.
And the night that it happened, I was working at the bar. I was at the club in front of hundreds of people. So I was like, well, I was here, and they were just like, and the detective was like, it's just a formality. Really. It's not, we've got him. We just want to make sure. And then he confessed. He admitted he did it, and I think he died in prison, but it was really, really weird. And then it really made me sick and disgusted at this guy. And who knows what else he might have done. I don't know much about the guy, but then it turns out that his dad and his dad's boyfriend had been doing things to him since he was young. And so maybe that contributed to it. He had
Yeah,
a lot of psychological
possible.
problems. He was doing a
Yeah,
lot of drugs.
PTSD, childhood trauma. Yeah.
Mhm. But he took this girl's life and he never really gave a reason why he did what he did. He just did it. And I really wondered why. Because when I talked to him, he seemed kind of kind of reclusive and kind of withdrawn. But I didn't feel like this horrible negativity around him. But when you're down there in that, I guess I could call it a caustic environment, there's all this negativity around you all the time. You can't always feel from one person. And he never came into the club. He was always outside. But I just thought it was weird when I found out that he actually lived in the apartments I used to live in. And then now this I can't say 100%, but my old neighbor Moses had said, he goes, yeah, that guy lived in your old apartment after you moved out. And he believed he was into black magic because he said that he had he put up black curtains. I thought he was just a goth, but they said that he would
Yeah.
be in there chanting and stuff and doing stuff. So what a weird thing. And then he decides to start calling himself Wolf. And this started like at work. There was a girl that worked with him, and she was telling, I think that girl, then her boyfriend worked with him. They said that they had worked with them somewhere or something. And they were telling my brother, he was standing there with my door guy, Chico. And so I just kind of halfway listened, and I said, oh, your nickname is Wolf? And then the guys, they said, yeah, he went to work, or this is what they told, my door guys. He went to work one day and just said, call me Wolf. And he just started wanting to be called that, like out of the blue. Like, that's a weird thing, So he does this thing, right? And I remember when I was living in that apartment, I had a bunch of weird dreams happen to me. There was a lot of weird, bad, negative energy in that place. And I don't know why. When I was living there, all I did was work and then go home and go to sleep. And I became sort of reclusive myself. And when I was living in that apartment, I just felt like I wanted to be alone and always in that room. But I felt like there was something there. And I had two roommates, and we were real good friends, And until we started living there, they were just like, are you okay? And everything was, fine until we lived there. And it was just a weird thing. Yeah, Dee just said that whole situation was weird. It was, man. It was a weird thing. And my friends can attest to this weird, this guy, whatever he was. And he was like me. He was half Hispanic, half white, but his dad was Hispanic and his mother was white.
Yeah.
But it was such a bizarre thing. And, and then when I didn't read about it right away. But I read that he had a bunch of mental problems and that he had been treated for it. And he had and then I thought, man, he must have had PTSD, which led to all of this weird, stuff. But when I was in that place, I had a dream, and it was a recurring dream. I had it twice in that apartment. And then I had it again after I moved. I moved to another place. And the first couple of days I was in that other place, I dreamed it. And it was so like, it took me, it was just such a weird thing. So here's the dream. I was in one dream, I was pushing a child on a swing, and I had this long, like, overcoat. And for whatever reason, I had a gun right there. And I was like looking around, kind of nervous. And I take it that these children, two of them, there was a boy and a girl, and I think they were my children. And I was a young guy in the dream, because I saw myself in the mirror. And so I went around to the front of the swing, and I talked to the little girl, and I said, hey, I got to go inside the bar. Daddy will be back, okay? And then there was a woman there, I take that was maybe my girlfriend or wife. I don't know. I'm assuming. And she's like smiled, and she had she had an Irish accent. And I talked, kind of like how people from Boston talk. I was like, I'll be back. I'm going to go in the bar, And I know that I was in Boston. I know that. I don't know why I know that. I just do. And so I walked in there, and I was at the bar, and I was standing there, and I was talking to this guy, and we started arguing, me and the bartender. And I just remember the last sentence was like, I know you know what I'm talking about. I said, I know you know what I'm talking about. I kept saying that to this guy, right? And then this dude just comes up real quick, and then there was like this loud bang and this pain in the back of my head. And then I see with my other eye just like this something come out of my head, and I fall onto the bar, and I'm gone. And that Then there was another one just like that, except it's just me walking into the bar, and I start talking and arguing with this guy behind the bar. He's not a bartender. He must be the owner or something. And I'm like, I know you know what I'm talking about. And I said, no, no. And then I said something else to the guy. And then it kind of went a little further, you know, like there was a little bit more. Like he said something back, and he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And then this dude just comes up and boom, and I get shot. And so I don't know what that was. The haircut that I had, the way that I was dressed, it looked like the 20s, like, you know, like the early 20s, right? And then after that, I had there was another recurring dream that I've had probably half a dozen times, and I've had it over and over again. And this one, oh my gosh. I haven't really talked about this one on the show, but, and I'll tell you, and then you can tell me what you think.
Please
I
go ahead.
figured this,
Yeah, I'm listening very carefully.
so
Yes.
I was at this river, and I remember like just going to the edge of the river, and it makes me, I don't know, because this is brutal too, but I put water on my face and I washed my face, and there was this blackness on it, and my hands were like shaking like this, and I was looking, and I could see these black plumes of smoke, like, you know, and I could hear in the background, you know, in the distance. And I remember like I had this like metal, and it was some kind of religious thing. I couldn't really see it. It was right here, and I was clutching it, and I was praying. And I learned later I was speaking in German, and I was just like, and I was praying, and I remember I just kept praying. I was like, God, I'm going to die. Please, you know, let me get right with you. I kept saying it, but I was speaking in German, and this is really hard. This is really hard to talk about. And I was like, God, please save me. You know, help me. I'm going to die. I was a young guy, and I knew I was going to die. I mean, because those were the Soviets, and they were basically like, they were right there. I mean, it was the most hopeless feeling in the world, and I was just like, we're doomed, you know. And I remember somebody coming up when I was at the edge of the river, and they put the hand on my shoulder, and they called me Sergeant, you know, and I stood up and I said, yes, let's go. And I turned around, and these guys were standing there. They're all like shell-shocked looking, skinny, you know, we're all emaciated. And I'm crying, and I was like, don't worry about it, guys. I got something in my eyes, you know, and I'm speaking in German, but I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I remember like walking, and it hit me at that time in the dream. I was that person, and I just remember thinking, not again. Like, this is going to happen again. Like, I'm going to die like this again.
Yeah.
So it was like this cognition, like I knew that this had happened before, you know, and now it's going to happen again. And here I am. I'm a soldier, and I'm going to die. And there was no hope. You're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. And I remember just looking at my shoes and my boots, and I've been marching a lot. And this is a true story. And this is because I break down when I think about this, because it was so traumatic. It hurts.
It does.
God dang. But I've been wanting to tell you this, right? So I'm going to say it right here on the show. So I started walking with my guys, and at the river, I think was the Oder. But I'm not sure if it was the river Oder, or maybe it was the I can't remember which one it was. I had it in my mind, you know, and I just don't even want to think about it if I don't have to. But I just remember the next day we got a report, and I just remember things were kind of jumping, you know, and it was like I was reading it, and I just threw it over my shoulder. I said, well, we're not getting any help. And I had to tell these guys, there was like 12 of us. I was like, we're not getting any help, and we've been told to stay put. And the Wehrmacht is pretty much destroyed. The Romanians have been punched into oblivion. They're done. And the Soviets are just destroying everything in their path. So we're just going to have to sit here. And so we prayed, and I said, just be ready, and I said, if you want to leave, I'm not going to think bad of you. Just go and do what you have to do. And I told these guys that, and I was telling them, and they were telling me back, and I don't care what people think about it. This is true. And this is why I believe the way I do, because I know this really happened. And I told these guys, and I said, if you want to leave, go ahead. If you want to stay, stay. But we are going to die tomorrow, and it's going to happen. And so I just remember the next part. I remember very clearly. I went to sleep, and then in the middle of the night, I stood up and I went back down to this creek. And after we had fallen back, and it was like I was standing there at the edge of this water again, but it was a creek, and I sensed my own presence. I felt like there was a ghost behind me, and I was like, whoa. And then I was out of that body, and I was standing there, and I was me, like me now, me who I am now. And I was like, holy crap, this guy senses me. But it was so weird because there's not something you can explain to a person in a three-dimensional body. I was this guy. I was him, and he sensed me, and he turned around and he was like, asked me in German, like, who's there? And I just was like, oh crap, this dude, this is freaky. This is creepy. Why am I sensing what I know is myself? So in that moment, he was like having some sort of weird experience, and he turned back around. And then I was like him again, and I was just like putting water on my face again. And the water was filled with what looked like debris, and it was just horrible. And then the smoke was everywhere. There was acrid smoke. You could smell it, and it was horrible. And there was just death everywhere. And so I just went back to where my guys were, and I laid back down, and I went to sleep on my coat. It was somebody else's coat that had been unalived. And so I wake up to hearing, and this part right here is really hard. I wake up, and there's this roaring noise. It's tanks. They're tanks. And we had these grenade launchers, and you had to hit them in the track. And I knew that. And I was only 20 years old. How did I know? I never studied at this point. I had studied ancient history. I hadn't even done this, so I knew all this stuff, and it didn't make sense. And I was just like yelling, aim for the tracks. And there was more of them. And then you could just hear this screaming and yelling. It was like a roaring noise. Like all these people, and they were coming towards us. And I stood up, and I tried to, you can't, there's nothing you can do. You're trying to change magazines. There's nothing you can do. And so I just threw it at them, and I just laid back down in the ditch, and they came up over the top of the ditch. And some of them had like bayonets, and they just started sticking me and shooting me. And I was just like, let me die, God, please. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I've not talked about this on the show. This is why. But I asked God, please just let it in, please. And it did. It did. I came up out of my body, and I was done. It was like, and I was looking down, and there were just this horde of people. I mean, they poured over us like a river, and then they just kept going. They just kept going. And they were like ants, and they were just all over this long line. And I don't even know what city it was. It was so bombed out and destroyed. It was just a wasteland, And I knew that from looking it up. So I went. I didn't have a lot of information at that time, and this was like 96 or something. So I left. I left Austin at that time, and I went to Vegas. I went to Las Vegas, and I stayed there for a while. I was like, I can't deal with this. This is too much. And so I told the guy that I worked with, and I told my sister, and she just didn't know what to think of it. She was just like, well, I'm Christian. I don't believe that. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Just completely. And I just said, look, I feel like I've lived before. I don't know why I had this dream. But I've had it multiple times, and there's different parts to it too. This is really weird. It's going to sound really crazy. I don't care. I'm just telling you the absolute truth. This is the absolute truth. My brother and Scorpion are both in this. They can attest. I've told them this dream years ago. I talked to them about it. I told them what it was. We've talked about it. And so I know that it was not, like, I don't know. It's not like it's good guys or bad guys. It's like it just happened. It was just, that was it. You were done. I mean, and I know somebody says it sounds like Berlin. I don't think it was Berlin. I think we were on the outskirts of we were somewhere else in another town, and it was being overrun. And I just remember reading that it was, there was a small like an attachment of Romanians that were helping to our, I think our southeast or something, and then they had been obliterated, and it was like there's nothing left. There's nothing slowing these people down. And I was just ordered to stay there and die. And it wouldn't matter, because if you fall back to Berlin, you're just going to be, and that's why I know it wasn't Berlin, because we weren't ordered to fall back. If we did, we were just going to die there. So it doesn't matter. You're just going to die. And the feeling of hopelessness that you feel. And when I had that dream, I woke up screaming. I woke up crying. And I was like, I fell out of my bed and I was like, God, please help me, God. Then God is like, hey, you're not there, you know? And I literally was crawling to the bathroom. And so I come back, you know, from Vegas, and after I got into some stuff up there, you know, and I said, man, these, you know, got in a fight with the Russian. And maybe it had something to do with it, because with his Russian accent, he had a smarmy attitude. And so I threw him through a window, through a glass door. We got into a fight, right? And so then I was told, hey, maybe you should go back to Austin, because now these people are going to be looking for you, and, you know, and you probably should go. So I came back to Austin with a real nasty attitude, a real bad negative outlook on life. And I went downtown and I found what I was looking for, which was just a way an outlet to punch out the feelings and the aggression and anger that I felt, you know. And I don't feel that way towards the Russian people now. I did when I was growing up. I hated them. Like, I hated their guts. Like, when they would talk, I like the Rocky movie, like Ivan Drago. I know he was just an actor, but I wanted him to die. Like, I hated Russian people. There was just one Russian kid that came to our school, and I beat him up. And he didn't even know why. I just didn't. He was an exchange student. He was not Russian. He was Belarusian, but he was Russian. And so I ended up beating his ass. And I just called him a commie and all this stuff. And everybody was like, why do you have this problem with them? You know, and I just do. And I hated the East Germans. And I hated communism really bad. And it was just like ingrained in me. I didn't know why. And I was just like, I hate these people. I hate their guts. And I hate everything they stand for. And I didn't feel any like affinity toward like Nazism or anything like that. I just felt like I got a raw deal, you know, and I was pissed. I was very pissed. And when I came up out of my body, I remember just kind of going up and up and up, and then just being sucked like sideways, like boom. And I felt like I was traveling through space really fast, and I could see like it was like Star Wars is the only way I could describe it. I don't know if that's even I can't even say it was like that. It's just the closest thing I could think of. It was like going sideways through space. Like, you're going not up, you're going sideways, and you were just, and then that was it. You're just into oblivion. You're nothing. And then it was like it was over. And so I had these dreams a few more times, and now this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to tell you this. Prior to that particular dream, I believe that I was with my friend. I had a friend that passed away back in 2011. We started working together at the gym. And one day, and he was half Algonquin. His mother was a full-blooded Algonquin. And I talked to him and I said, you know, I had these dreams that I was a German soldier, and he was a soldier. He was just like, you know, messing with his CDs. And he was like, he looked at me and he was like, what? And I said, I had this dream that I was a German soldier. And I started having this, you know, and he was like, he sat down and he was like, he goes, you're kidding me. And so he took out this notebook and he started writing everything I was saying. And I was like, why are you doing that? I didn't know him real good at that time. He became my best friend. And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, dude, he's like, that's past life. That's your past life. He goes, I have it too. He goes, I was a German soldier. He's like, let me tell you what happened. He said, I had this dream that we were on the Eastern Front. This is his dream, right? And he said, and I had this really close friend. And then he goes, I'm just going to stop right there, because he started to tear up when he was talking about it. And I got up. We're both like big guys, weightlifters guys, you know. And this guy was like a wrestling champ up in New York. He was a badass dude, one of my best friends ever. And I said, oh, man. I said, are you okay, man? I said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. So I went to the bathroom and I started breaking down, because I started thinking about it. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. And now this guy's going to, you know, he's having his own issues. Like, what is going on here? But the universe, God, you know, whatever it is, it causes it. You get pushed together with people that you know from past lives. I know this is the truth, and everybody's going to think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you the absolute truth. And so I got to be really good friends with him and his wife, and his son eventually became my godson. He was one of my godchildren. He was at the conference. He was doing pictures and stuff. And he lives up in Colorado. And it was so eye-opening because I had this dream now. I had stayed with my mother for 2 weeks while I was getting another place, and I had that dream. Now, my mother listened to me when I talked about it because she had weird dreams, so she was more open to it, you know? And so she woke me up, and I was rolling around on the floor, kicking and screaming and freaking out, and she was just like, "What's wrong with you?" This dream I had, and later found out that my friend had had the same dream, so we were connected by that, right? And we were coming back from we were on the front, and we were part of, I don't know which group. I don't know if it was Army Group A, B, C, or D. After this, I studied it a lot. I learned about it. And I remember we were given directives, and our directives were to make sure that the guards at the camps, that these were the camps where they were holding prisoners. Now, I didn't see in the dream anybody like Holocaust, anything like that. I just saw prisoners that were prisoners, and they were all mixed together. They were Russian, they were Polish, or whatever, and these were camps. I found out though that this particular camp was originally built by the NKVD, which was the precursor to the KGB. Basically their version of the Gestapo, which was the Russians. They had these murder squads that they used, and the Germans just co-opted them and used them as their camps and put the people that they didn't like in the camps, right? So we're there for 3 days, and we're arguing with this stupid Leutnant, as they say in German. And it was like, I told this guy over and over again, I said, "You're being stubborn." I said, "You need to release these people." And my thinking, I tried to reason with this guy. And I told him, I said, it was very in-depth, detailed. This dream was like, it was an in-depth dream. And I said, "You need to release them because if nothing else, it'll add to the confusion when the Red Army comes." And he's like, he stands up and he slaps his hand on and he's like, the Red Army is never coming here. It's never going to happen. So we went back to the barracks, and we were there, and me and my friend were talking. And I told him, I said, "This guy's crazy. This guy is nuts. He's not gonna relent, and these guards are all doomed. So let's just go. Let's fall back and let's find our unit, and let's get reconstituted and go and prepare for the fallout of what's coming." Because we were basically the shattered remnants of what had been what was destroyed, I believe, probably after the 6th Army encirclement, which is kind of, because I did a lot of research on it, try to figure it out. And I think we were Army Group C. And so I told him, I said, this is a useless exercise. And there was this young girl, and she was Jewish, and she played piano. And at night, because I was there, I remember this dream. It kept coming back to me, and there was this music, and I walked into the mess hall where she was playing, and this guy that was in charge, because his other people had been killed, they'd already been sent to the front, and so he was left as this. He should never have been in charge. I can tell you that. He was this young punk, and he had her sitting, and he had his feet up on the piano, and she was playing, and it was beautiful. And after he walked away drunk, staggering around, I went up to her and I sat down with her and I asked her name. And I don't remember. It was something like Svetlana or something like that, but I can't remember. She's told me the name like 2 or 3 times and I still can't fully remember. I think that was what it was. And she was like a Latvian, but she was Jewish, supposedly. But the Germans just threw people in there. It didn't matter whether they were Jewish or not. Sometimes they knew, sometimes they didn't. They didn't care because they were just, if there's a chance that you're somebody that's a combatant or somebody that, and I told her, I don't know why. I think because I had been drinking or something, and I just remember the dream. And I told her, I said, "Look," I said, "in about 2 days, the Red Army is going to come, and they may be nice and let you guys go, but I don't think so. They're probably going to kill everyone here because that's their MO." I knew that. I knew that. I just knew it in my heart. And I said, "If you or anybody from your family wants to get out of here," I was like, "meet me at midnight." And I told her specifically, I remember saying this, and it was like in English, even though I know we weren't speaking English. It was like I could understand it like English. And I said, "You need to meet me by the Eastern Gate, and I'm going to get you out of here." And she looks at me, and I said, "Don't be afraid." I said, "And I'm leaving tonight." And if you don't show up, well, you're going to be stuck here. And you're going to be at the mercy of the Red Army, and they're going to kill everyone. I'm telling you the truth. That's what they've done up to this point. It's what I had seen. I don't know how. I just knew, because I had seen it. And so I get up and we get our stuff, we put our rucksacks and we go to that eastern gate and we clip the wire because we had to sneak out because these dumbasses were so obsessed with their ridiculous orders and, well, we got to stay here, And so I remember this girl and she came with what little she had in a little bag, and it was just her mother. And she had her grandmother with her and a couple other kids and stuff. And I said, look, once we get beyond this gate, we're gone. We're not going to be able to take you off. So you're going to have to do what you do. This will give you a 2 to 3 day advantage over your friends because they're going to whatever. And so I opened the gate, I opened the fence, and they crawled in, they crawled under it, and then we crawled under it. And I remember getting hung up on it. It was very specific. And my friend was pulling on me. And then I heard somebody whistle. And so we had to lay down. And I nearly shot this guy. And I remember looking at my pistol. I know it was a Luger, and I was looking at it, and I was like, and then I didn't do it. And then he walked by with the shepherd dogs, with the German shepherd dogs, and he walked by, and I was like, okay. And so we crawled out. And then we went off into the night, and I told her, I said goodbye, and I gave them some bread and some stuff, and they went their way. And I saw some other people sneaking out from underneath it. And then I heard like I guess they figured it out. So we just took off into the woods and we were gone. Well, years later, Tony's stepdad, I became really good friends with his mother. Now, her name is Darl. And one day, this just came up. We were talking, and she's a big believer in past lives. And get this is crazy. This is going to sound really crazy. She's still alive, and she can attest to this. This is a true story. This is Tony's stepdad's mother. And the first time I had met her, she came down because Chad had some problems, and she wanted to help, so I was here helping him. And so we go to eat at IHOP. I'll never forget this. And she was with Tony's mother, and they were sitting across from us. And she was talking about past life regressions because we started talking about this kind of stuff. And she says, I've had these recurring dreams where I was a young girl, and I was in the East, and I was in a camp, and there was this guy in charge, and he liked me. And so he gave me and my family extra food and things like that, and gave us a little bit of privilege. They didn't lock us up. They kept us, in a little bunk where we could be on our own. That's how she was able to get out, right? And so she told me this, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, and Scorpion was sitting right next to me, and I'll never forget that we were both sitting right there. And she said, I was a young girl, and these 2 German officers helped me escape. And I nearly vomited because I'm like, oh, are you serious? And she was like, yes. And I was like, I don't know you that well. I said, I think that was me. And I'm not joking. I've had this dream. And I told her, I said, I've had it three times. I said, and I was like, I described her, and she says, yes. That I had this dream and I'm going like, this woman's a lot older than me. She's like in her 70s now. And I was like, I think that was me. I told her, I told her the dream. I said, let me tell you the dream. And I told it to her. And, yeah, Scorpio, you're talking about when we went to visit in LeGrand. So she told us that dream, but that was in LeGrand. So I told her the dream at the IHOP that night. Right here in Cedar Park, up the road. And when we went to visit them, we went to Oregon. They live up there in Oregon. And she told me, my wife, and Scorpion the dream. And it was, I know it was real. That's why when I tell people I believe in this is why, because I know this is real. I know this is real. And I'm sitting there going like, this is not a deception. I know what happened because I could feel it. I was reliving these things. And what ended up happening with that dream that I had actually had before was when I saw my death, when we ended up getting back, we ended up getting thrown back into, circulation and the conscription. And we ended up with this unit, and it got just torn apart. And then we ended up with these. I remember pulling these 20 mils, trying to get them set up to do absolutely nothing because they don't pierce the armor of the T-34, and it was just a exercise in futility. And I just like, this is pointless. We should be surrendering, and nobody's. It's just like everybody was in this psychotic daze and not realizing the gravity. Like, we're being destroyed. And I kept getting reports, hearing about how the West was being totally annihilated, and we're fighting on both fronts. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. And we're all going to die. And for what? And I just remember thinking every day, like, and then, that dream that I had where I died, it was just like, this is unreal. Like, but it was real. And I know it was real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my name. I don't know who I was. I just know that I was just there. I know it. And so I didn't mean to take up all this. I didn't mean to bring this out now. I thought it would be easier to talk about this. But this is something that I've held in for a long time. And I don't even care. I'm at a point right now. I don't care what people think about me. I don't give a crap what people say about me. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I know what I know. And I know when Darl told me that, I just was like, this is confirmation. And so my friend, going back to when I was with my friend and hanging out, and it was like 97. And we had stopped working at the gym. We ended up working at a nightclub, and we were fighting all the damn time, and he told me the dream, and I listened intently, and my brother was there and a bunch of my friends. And I had never seen him break down, and he broke down, and he said, it was me and a friend of mine, and we saved this girl and her family. And I was like, holy crap. And then he was deceased, by the time that, and I told Darl, I said, he was a friend of mine and your son's, we were all friends together. And Darl said, y'all were all together. And then her son told me, he's like, we were all together. And he told me some things too. I'm not even going to get into it all. And then I realized what was going on. I was like, we were all together back then, and now we're together now. And boy, did we really. It was very hard. It was very hard. I mean, there's no therapy for this, and when Jason Bland was talking about his son dying as a soldier, I wanted to scream out. And Jason, if you're listening, this is what I was talking about. This is what I told you about. I wanted to scream. I was like,
Josh, I listened to you very, very carefully. And I can see you going through a lot. And I'm very glad that you feel actually comfortable talking about all of this while I'm here with you live. So also to everybody in the chat that are listening and talking right now, I want to say thank you for being respectful to Josh and accepting his story, because sharing something like this, being under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure from outside, and having these experiences are not easy. So even Josh, this is not my show, but I want to say thank you to everybody, because the most important is that we respect, love, cherish, and support one another. So I did listen to your story very carefully, and I listened to every single drop of it, and I was very quiet. First of all, what I can say, entire time, what are you mentioning? You're talking about your past lives. Your past life is something that is hunting you. Past life is something that cannot be easy. It can be traumatizing, and especially there you're showing PTSD as a soldier, something that it's trauma, that it's hunting you, losing your life, trying to save somebody. And because you were actually going through that since the child, of course, you continue having this hate, and this particular hate towards that group. I don't blame you. And the reason why, because you felt basically, if I can say, their strength, their other side. I'll say something publicly. And for example, all of my family on both sides, on my mother and my father's side, they were in concentration camps, all of them. When communism came, I don't know how much of the land has been taken from the family, and some of them end up basically in the jails and everything. Now, when you hear this, you're going to be shocked. My own school that I went, elementary school, was actually a land that was built on, was owned by my great grandfather that, was killed by Nazis. And after that, communists came and they took his land. So there you go. So in one way, we suffer on the both sides. So I understand. What you went through, my dear friend, it's something very heavy. It's something very hard. And you must understand, you talking about it, it's actually getting rid of the emotion, getting rid of negativity. And it's also giving you outlet to explain, yourself and your pain. There's nothing wrong with that. So what you're experiencing in the dreams is your past lives. You're experiencing trauma. You're experiencing all these horrible details, and you can feel it. And this is nothing wrong. And also, people don't understand. Josh, if you take science, and even today, our show, we are meant to meet together at this time, at this point. This is all written. So basically, the reason why I'm telling you, souls travel over the time and over the distance. They will meet exactly when they need to meet, and they will continue with their service, or basically with their connection, or whatever their mission it is. So basically, all of that is happening because you're going through the past lives. What I would suggest you is actually to join some of the past lives groups. It's also very important. You can write a journal, and basically write the experiences. And the another thing, what's also very important during this very hard and stressful time, and when you're experiencing the PTSD from the past, these things will basically reoccur. And that's why, for example, may happen after 5 years, 3 years, 6 years. It depends what kind of circumstances you were going at that time in your life. Um, so you and I may know each other from the past life, and now we are meeting again. People that I, for example, know that my mother wasn't my mother at my past life. She was my mother-in-law. I know that. I also know certain things that I don't talk publicly. I, for example, know how I lost my spouse 2 times, or it wasn't even a spouse, it was the man that I love, and I lost him each time, and I know why. We cannot stop. And if you face those things openly, then you will understand why you're doing what you're doing right now. Why you're doing, for example, these researches, why you're looking into what these, for example, especially, for example, Russian groups are doing. We must understand also, as much as Russians, for example, at that time, they were saving the people. My grandma, who was in Belgrade at that time, she openly said, as Cossacks, so those are special Russians troops. So as the Cossacks were entering the country, she said openly that they had to hide because they're supposed to protect the people, but they were slaughtering and beating and raping everything in their own way. So there is something there that we must understand, that not everything was perfect. Some of the people are saying that, they were also Belarus, Ukraine, Russia. If you take not Czechoslovakia, forgive me, Chechnya, all of those countries before they were Soviet Union, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, they were all Soviet Union. I have one of the next door neighbor, Belarusian. I'm going to tell you, instead of, because, we are from Balkans and we can understand each other. If that woman could, she would cut my throat. And I'm going to be honest to you, I wouldn't be pleasant to her either. because that's how much he hates us, and nobody in the neighborhood like them. They don't get along
Are
with
you
anybody.
Serbian? What
So,
are you?
yeah, I'm mixed. I'm mixed. So that's what
Romanian,
from my
Serbian?
grandma's side, my father's side. Yeah. So
Yeah.
from my father's side. So that's why I'm mentioning you. That's my father's mother. So that's why, for example, that's what she experienced there. So that's what I'm telling you. I totally understand when it's so. History cannot be changed, but we are taught totally wrong history. And what we
Yeah.
are learning a lot of times, it's actually written by politicians, big shots, by the people that want to shape the history their own way, not exactly the way it is. So unfortunately, what you are experiencing the truth, and you are experiencing the trauma that you're carrying for such a long time. And what I advise you to, is to write a journal. There's nothing wrong with that. Join some groups. Like I'm saying, those are fantastic groups.
I
That
did
they
write journals. I did, and some of them got burned by an angry ex.
oh,
So yeah, so some of the journals I wrote, and it was from the dreams. Those were pretty powerful. And she burned them. But I still had like a bunch of my journals left, and I don't think that any
mhm.
from those times were there. But I do have a lot of stuff in those journals from dreams and things like that. And um, she was just mad at me because she thought I cheated on her, which I didn't because somebody lied. And then she was all sorry afterwards when I proved that it wasn't true, but it didn't matter. Damage done. And I still forgave her. I was just like, I'm a forgiving person. Like I probably am too forgiving. I should not be as forgiving. I've been burned by that. And because people that do bad things, they think that everybody's like them. So they can't fathom someone being kind and actually
Exactly.
forgiving. And I do forgive every night. I forgive the people that are hurting us and doing the things to us, and they're ignorant. They really are. They don't realize the true nature of reality, and they don't realize that people carry pain from past lives because they don't believe in it. And it's sad because the church way back did away with that because they didn't want that people to be able to think, hey, we could just live again. But it's not always cracked up to be, because when you start remembering these dreams, and I believe that I actually may have lived again after that particular. There was another life that I lived, and that one I'm pretty sure I took my own life, and
And
that.
that's another thing, Josh.
Mhm.
So I want to tell you something, what's very important, and everybody in the chat. I want to tell you something from a medical point of view, and now from other point of scientific research. So before we believe, Josh, in only three aspects of lives, and that will be like we're talking about physical, mental, and spiritual, right? Now
Mhm.
we are expanding into five aspects of life, when spiritual is the biggest way, and now we have wellness as a being used as a treatment in the medical science to help and treat people. So it's actually proven when somebody dies. So it doesn't matter if you are 200 pounds, 100 pounds, if it's a child, if it's adult, God forbid, a baby, an infant, everybody is lighter for 235 grams. And the reason why they say that's when your spiritual body
Mhm.
leaves. Now, this is
Right.
five aspects of health that it's written in Mosby book. So I'm giving you exactly the book, medical studies that I also study nursing from. So basically, when that happens, your spirit leaves. And what's happening after that, your spirit goes, it's free away. It's an energy. It's an energy. So by Nikola Tesla, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So what
Mhm.
energy will do, it will travel all over the universe and come back again. So that's why you're reborn again. Or that's why we come back again. And that's why, for example, we have that boy in India that, or the girl that said, this was my husband, this is where I lived, this is where I died. So they said she's a deva, what it means, goddess on Indian. So there's people in Europe, there's people in Canada, there's the boy that was saying that, remember his life, being a pilot that ended up on CNN. So now we
Mhm.
know that science and basically, they can say fiction or our suspiciousness is coming to basically equal or to our spiritual beliefs. So Our spiritual wellness is very important. So when you're saying that, that means, Josh, when you are spiritually hurt, you are affecting all other aspects of health. And when you're being reborn, or you're coming back again into the new life, you're going to carry some of that burden. Sometimes we can remember, sometimes you can. Some of us have more open eyes, some of us don't. But that's why we meet some people. That's why some people will understand that some people, like you're saying, your ex didn't understand. And, she, like you're saying, after that, she apologized, of course, because it takes a really open mind to accept what's happening to somebody or what did that person go through.
Well, she
And
didn't
also,
do that. She didn't do that because of my beliefs. She did that because she thought I cheated on her. And
and
nothing. It was just her
that's
being
what
a
she
good
wanted to
sister.
hurt you with. This is
Yeah.
something that she knows you're doing. This is something that is very close to your soul. This is something that's quite personal, right? So burning your journals, she's hurting you very close and personal. So that's why she burned them. So there's
Yeah.
always a connection between them. Another thing, what I advise everybody, and even you, it's also to write every single detail. So when you write a single detail, you can
Yeah, I
go
did.
back to the history, especially now that we have Google and all this, easy, accessible research to the history and fact, and you'll be capable of finding more about what happened in the past and who you are. The worst thing is that when you lose the life or see yourself dying. Um, Sean Graham, my very good friend, who had actually, lost his life in wake up. So he had a near life death experience. I really do respect him, admire him very much. He said it was the hardest thing, that you see yourself dying. And he saw everybody gathering around him while he was, going away, providing a care. Josh, we cannot be gods. We play gods every day at the hospitals, thinking that we can, stop the death. So we try to be gods, but we can't. So I personally did plenty of the times continue pumping and doing, chest compression, thinking that I can save somebody, while I would have another person tapping me and say, Daniel is over. But we can play gods, but we can't. So once when you accept this is, and it's hard to see yourself dying, of course, and feeling that pain and hopelessness, but then you are alive again. What it means, you have a mission. Right now, your mission is this and that. You have to fight for people. You have to talk for people. You have to explain the trauma. You have to explain what's happening around the world. There is a reason why are you back. And if you look what was happening in your past life, and now it's very connected because you are still serving people and you are still serving for justice, or you're looking how to serve justice or inform and protect. So you're still doing something that's really connected to your past. And again, I'm really glad that you did share this story with me.
And it wasn't an easy thing to do.
Of course.
It's been 6 years on this show. Next month, this coming month, in 2 weeks, it'll be
Oh,
6 years.
congrats. Yeah.
We started it on my mother's birthday, just kind of by happenstance, I guess. If you believe, I don't believe in that, but I didn't mean to. It just did. And my mother always thought it was going to be something special because, God rest her soul, it started on her birthday. And
Yeah.
I wanted to tell this many times, and I just couldn't. Because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to not break down. I didn't want to break down, and tonight I just can't. I'm so frazzled from everything that's been going on. I got a lot going on in my life, and
Yes.
these people that mess with you, they're not the main thing causing problems in my life. They're just an annoyance that's like there every day. It's like every day they tear the scab open and they keep attacking. And then it just gets to the point where you're going through all kinds of hell for all kinds of different reasons. I'm having a lot of problems, and just being attacked constantly. And I'm sure being under spiritual attack it's taken its toll. I'm strong, but eventually you just get so tired. You're just like, and so I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know that I was going to just blurt it all out, I guess. I wanted to
I
say
think,
this to
Josh, you felt comfortable. You felt
I
comfortable, and
felt
you
like I
felt,
needed
yeah.
to, because I just need to let people have
And
this
this was a
perspective.
time and a moment for you to give your soul a freedom. You're going to feel much better tonight because
I hope so.
you let out something that was bothering you, or you were holding this for quite a long time. You were waiting for a moment to share this. And I want to say thank you for trusting me for sharing this while I was with you. So that makes me really happy, because the truth, what you shared tonight, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And especially being a man, it's a different from being a female, and you also look the man as a different figure and everything, so you did the best you can. And also, when you said you break down, we must understand tears are part of the emotions. People that don't have tears, people that pretend that they don't have nothing except stones inside of themselves, they probably have the biggest tears than many of us. So there's nothing wrong with that, my friend. You are a human, you are a soul, you breathe in and out. So it's quite normal. And I want to tell you, you know what? You did really well. And I'm quite honored that I was here with you.
And I want to thank Tennessee Ridge Runner for that donation. I really appreciate that, brother. It's it means a lot. It really does. We're having a hard time right now, and things just aren't going real well. And I'm just, I'm kind of. One of my really dear friends that's in this field is leaving, Texas, and he just told me yesterday, and I was like, wow. I'm not going to say who it is yet because I don't know if he's going to announce it publicly or how he's
Yeah.
going to do it. But we're very close, and now so I'm going to be going to the conference. I decided I wasn't actually going to go, and now I'm thinking I really need to go because this could be the last time I see him possibly in Texas. So I got to go. And for those of you listening, I've been holding on to this for years. And it's something that everybody in my family and most of my friends already in my daily life, they know about this. And in fact, my friend Squid said to me, a couple months back, he's like, have you ever told that story about, what happened to you in the past life thing? And I was like, I will eventually. And I admitted it to him, I admitted it to him. I said, look, I don't know that I can do it without breaking down. And there's these people that keep just attacking us. And they're going to make a big circus out of this and say a bunch of crap about me and post a bunch of nasty, evil things because that's what they do. They have nothing else in their lives. But God forgive them that they don't know what they do. They just know that and it's very ignorant. But it's knowledge, and Jesus said, my people die for lack of knowledge. And there's those that are just going to be dead set against it because they're going to believe the indoctrination that they've been given by the early church. And the early church did that. They really did. They took out things that they should not have.
Yes.
And when Jesus says it's to give, to live and die but once, as whatever, that right there, I'm going to tell you, there's two different things about that. One of these things is that people write this stuff, right? So we don't really know 100% if that's really what he said. That's one thing. But I will say this: he also, I don't believe that he was talking about you living and dying one time. I think he's talking about you living and dying as Josh Turner. I will live and die one time. You are, as a man or a woman, you are to live and die as that person one time in this world. That's it. It doesn't say that you won't live and die as another person. Again, you will live and die, though, as who you are. It will only happen, once you're gone. You're not going to be resurrected until the resurrection, right? But it's going to be a spiritual thing. That's the thing people don't get, because Jesus, he chastised the disciples for constantly talking to him about the afterlife and asking them about their wives and their families. And he says, you're not going to have that. When you go over, what happens is you will have that, and that those people that are there, right? But then eventually you all transcend. And that's the thing Jesus became frustrated with, because they weren't grasping that. And transcendence is completely different. You are no longer connected to the earthly shell at all. And so eventually, once you are out of the body and you are with the Lord, eventually, once you go back to God, there is no brother, sister, mother, there is no husband, wife. It's nothing. And Barry says, that's speculation, bro. No, Barry, that's the truth. Because I know what I saw and I know what happened to me. And when I talk about it, I'm reliving it. I'm reliving it. I know you're very against what I'm saying, and that's fine. I respect your right to disagree, but I'm telling you what I know. That's why I've been such a proponent of this. This is not, and I don't care who wants to attack me. I don't care who wants to disassociate from me. I don't care. I really don't. People's opinions about me are worth a fresh bucket of hamster vomit at this point. I don't care. In fact, the hamster vomit is probably worth more. But I can say this. My mother had an NDE. She saw the other side. And I know many, many, many people who have. And I know a lot of people have shared their experiences of being reincarnated. And I could do a whole I have resisted the urge to do a show about this or even bring a couple of them on and talk about it because we have a very strong Christian audience, a very strong Christian base. But I'm telling you, 100%. You need to do your research. There's even a book. It's an old book now, but it's called Old Souls. I don't know if you can still get it. Books go out of print.
Yeah.
But that book, it really, that's just one of a million out there. I mean, there's a ton of people who've shared their experiences. I don't think these millions, there's millions of people that have talked about this. And I don't think they're all just making stuff up. I know what happened to me. And I know when I was crawling around on the floor, looking for the light and was just like, I thought I was, because when I first woke up from that dream and I was on the floor, I started crawling around on the floor. I guess I had fallen out of bed or something. I thought that I had died and I was in the darkness. And so I was looking and I was screaming out for God, for Jesus. I was like, help me. And then I touched the wall and I was like, this is a wall. And then it came to me like, oh, okay, you're in your apartment and this is, 1996. This is not, 1945. And I was like, holy crap. Holy crap. And like I said, there was another incarnation after that where it was a pretty mundane life. And I'm going to just say this. I think I lived, and this is going to sound goofy, whatever, but I think I was, and this, like I said, this is just what I've pieced together because I looked at myself in the mirror. I was this guy and I was mulatto and I was in Cleveland. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now because I don't want to go through the pain of that because it was a very sad existence and I ended up ending my life. And I believe in that existence, I had this trauma from the past and it tore me apart. It was tearing me apart. And so I did that. So when I was small, and I've said this before on the show, and I'm going to tell you this, guys and Danielle, when I was little, I used to tell my grandparents that I had lived before. And I used to tell them that I was going to live again. And I used to tell them that they were going to become little again and grow up into adults. I said this all the time. And I said it so much that my mother sat me down and started questioning me. And she's like, Mijo, she's like, who are you referring to as being when you were an adult? Who were you as an adult? And I told my mother this before she passed away. And I didn't know exactly. I didn't know the other past lives. I just knew that I was brown. I told her that. I said, I was a brown man and I was sad. And my mother was like, what are you talking about? But she thought I was saying that I was Hispanic, but I think I was actually a mulatto, like, like I was mixed, and I told my mother, and my mother remembers this. That I don't remember because I was like 2 or 3. And I was telling my mother, I was like, I was a brown man. And she was just like, what is he talking about? What is this kid, And then I used to tell my grandpa and my grandma that they were going to have to go and be born again. And my grandfather thought I was talking about being born again as a Christian. And he kept telling me, well, I read the Bible, don't be preaching to me. And I remember as a kid telling him, I remember that because I was like 4 or 5 and I still had these memories. And I remember this too. When I was a kid, this is a true story too. There was this guy who had an antique shop and it was in, not Marble Falls. Oh gosh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not important. It was out in West Texas. He had an antique shop. And we went in there. It's gosh dang it, not Abilene, Anson. Or no, not it was Stanford. He had an antique store, and we went there as a child. I was a child. I was 5 years old, I think, and we were living in a place called Wynert, Texas. And I remember this very, very clearly. And it was me and one of my sisters and my mother, and I don't remember who else. Somebody from our church. We were going to this very, very conservative Baptist church, Danielle. And so I remember this guy had an antique store, and he had these Panzer Kampfwagons, is what they're called. And how would I know this? I'm like 5 years old, and I went up to it and I wanted to grab it, and the man's wife was watching me, and she's like, "Okay, be careful with that. That's old." And I picked it up. I picked it up, and I showed her, and I said, "I know these. I used to ride in these. I've driven these." And the lady goes, "Okay, like that's cute." She kind of pats me on the head. She's such a cute little boy. And I looked at my mom and I said, "Mom, I used to drive that. I had these. We sat in the back, all of me and my guys. We sat in the back, me and my friends, whatever." And my mom was like, "Oh, you got such an imagination, Oh, what a cute kid." Everybody would say that. I wasn't imagining this. I was sitting there trying to tell them what I had seen and what I had been through. And I remember watching something about the Soviet Union on television, and I broke a TV. I'm not even joking. Like I threw something I had in my hand. It was like a glass or something, and they were showing images of the Soviets and this stuff that was going on or whatever. And I got really mad and I threw it, and it hit the side of the TV. And my grandpa got up and was like, "What the hell's wrong with you, boy?" And I was just like, "I don't like the communists. I don't like them. They're evil." And my grandpa's like, kind of gets a kick out of it. And he was like, so he just kind of like, my grandpa was real. He was one of the only people, him and my grandmother, who would spoil me. Nobody else really did that. And so he was like, my grandma's like, "Well, now he can get a color TV." It was like they had this black and white TV, and I threw a glass at it and I hit it. And my grandpa wasn't real concerned about why I did it, but my grandmother was. And so he told my friends that we all went over there one time for dinner. My grandma used to make chicken fried steak, and it was just the best. It's the best in Texas, I'm telling you. And she would pan fry it. It was so delicious. And then my friends came over to eat. And she said this in front of my brother, in front of everybody. She said that she believed me. She said, because she used to call me Joshy or Josh Boy. I know it sounds goofy, but she said Joshy used to say wild, crazy things about his past lives. And he would say that he was a brown man and, that he was this soldier and blah, blah, blah. And at this point in my life, I didn't remember all of it. I was a teenager when we had this, we were all eating dinner, guys I played ball with. And a lot of them were African-American guys, and they were laughing. They were like, "You were a black man in a past life?" I was like, "I guess. I don't remember it." You know what I mean? But my grandmother was like, she goes, "Yeah, you did." It was my dad's side, right? To the white side. And she's like, "You did. And you would always tell us all the time, proselytizing to us, you're going to be in trouble because Jesus is going to judge you, and you're going to have to be born again, born again." She's like, "And we always thought you were talking about being a Christian." And I would tell you, "Joshy, I am a Christian." And then you would say, "No, you're going to have to come back." And whenever she got into an argument with this lady at Totem, this convenience store that she worked part-time at one point, I told that lady, I said, "You're going to die soon, and you're going to come back as a child, and it's going to suck." And I was a little bitty kid, and my grandmother remembered that, and the woman turned around and 2 weeks later, that woman died in a car wreck. And I'm not even kidding. This was 1980 or 81. Somebody was real little. And my grandma was like, "Do you remember that?" And I said, "I do remember that." And I was like, I was playing Donkey Kong. I could barely see the deal, whatever. And when I heard my grandmother arguing with this woman, she was an alcoholic. The woman was there always getting booze. And I walked over to her and I stood there watching all of this. And the lady threw like a honey bun or something across the counter. And my grandmother was very patient with people. And she says, "Ma'am, not the way to treat people, blah, blah, blah." And I looked at that lady, and for some reason I just knew. And I told her, I said, "You're going to die soon." And I was like, "And you're going to come back, and it's going to really suck. Your life is going to be so hard." And she was like, "Shut up, kid." And she stopped, and she turned and looked at me, and she shook her head and walked out. Then I remember my grandmother telling my mother this at the HEB. My mother was the manager, and she would see us come in to buy groceries. She'd come down out of the office and go up and pick me up, hug me, whatever. And then my grandmother would give her an update, and she told her, like, "Yeah, he's been good, but he told a woman the other day that she was going to die." Then I heard my mom and dad talking about it in the newspaper. This woman had died in a car wreck because she was a drunk. She was drinking. I shouldn't call her that, but she was an alcoholic. And my dad was like, "Don't tell him that." And I remember thinking, "What are they talking about?" But my sister, the big mouth, she was like, "Yeah, that woman you said was going to die, she died." And my sister, never missing a chance to take a punch at me, she goes, because I have a sister that's just like that. She goes, "You did that. You did that because you said she was going to die. So you killed that woman. That woman's dead because of you." And I felt horrible. So I cried and cried myself to sleep. And my mom comes in there and she sits on the bed. She's like, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I killed that woman." She goes, "No." She's like, "No, I don't know how." She goes, "You knew you said that. I don't know. I don't want to talk about that." She's like, "But you did not kill that woman, mijo." And my
No.
dad, in one moment of kindness that they usually were not as this, they were always angst and arguing and chasing the dollar, workaholic parents, both of them. And my dad comes in and he says, "Josh, you didn't kill that woman." Now, we don't know how the heck you knew to say that. But, he goes, "But she died because she was drunk and she was driving."
Exactly.
Yeah. And so,
Josh, sorry, this was your experience and something that was a message from the other side that was given to you and you share with your family. It's not your
mhm,
fault, especially, being young at that age. That's why I advise you to read my book, The Magic of the Spirit Lake, that I sent to you. And inside there, you will find some things I think are spiritual and very connected to things that you are experiencing. So, though
mhm.
inside of that book, you'll be capable of figuring out how actually child can see things, but not understand what they're seeing to say to the others because they'll be punished. And so that's what,
But I don't remember seeing
yeah,
anything though. I remember saying it and blurting it out. I've done that
yeah,
before. I've blurted stuff
yeah,
out that happened, but I don't know
yeah.
what I was seeing.
It was just a channel from whatever channel was given to you. This was the channel
Yeah,
that certain
maybe.
things were coming to you. It's not bad. Like I said, gift can be a curse too, because you need to carry certain things that, are heavy and they are not everyday news. Like, certain things, like somebody died. For example, I knew my auntie, she's gonna have a baby, baby girl. Everybody was saying, no, 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 she's gonna have, and they're gonna bet the money. They were joking. As a woman, they like to joke. If the belly
Mhm.
is big, it's gonna be girl. If she's pretty, it's gonna be
Yeah, if
boy.
it's
It's
high, it's
just
going to be a
all.
boy. If it's low,
Yeah,
it's going to
yeah,
be a boy.
yeah.
High, it's a
Of
girl.
course,
Yeah.
the ultrasound will say, but they were bidding between themselves before there was revealing of the sex. And I said to my mother, no. And the reason why, that was, for example, something beautiful that I saw that night. I dreamt of a baby and I saw the baby in a cradle. And I said, it's going to be a beautiful girl. I'm telling you, it's going to be a girl. And my mom said it's going to be a girl. And after that, they all laugh. And then when Milena was born, actually was I now a beautiful girl over 20, but a beautiful girl. So that tells you certain things can be pretty, certain things can be bad, but things that are bad are most painful than the one that are more pretty. We talk more about ugly stuff than we talk about the pretty stuff because they
Hmm.
leave a bad marks on us. But
Yeah.
Josh, I had an amazing time at your show. It'll be my
Hmm.
pleasure if you want me back that we can discuss reincarnation, dreams, or anything. Your stuff that you bring out is always amazing. I must say, you are a great person. You're going through a lot. My healing, my positive energy is going towards to you and to your family. I'm going to send you some hints in a private messenger. I think certain things need to be said private. Not everything needs to be said
Yeah,
here
for
on
sure.
the social media. And, if you ever need my help, of course, I'm here. But I want to say, I had a blast in here and I hope I see you soon. And yeah, I am planning to fly. So I'm sure we'll meet again, just like we met over there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
My
And
pleasure. My pleasure. And again, thank you for sharing very personal stories with me. And it was an honor that I was there while you were sharing. That makes me really happy.
Yeah. And so you're actually Serbian, right? And what else?
So I have a lots of mix. So if you go into the background, my one part that is a mixture of all the Balkans, but actually when we did our DNA, it doesn't have nothing to do with that. So that
Well, it
would be
depends on,
that
yeah,
would be totally another show that I think
yeah.
you would be shocked when you see,
Because the
and
Serbians
that's
were
why we put.
the big allies of the Soviets, the Serbians. The Serbians were willingly allies to the Soviets.
Exactly. So that would be from my grandma's side, from my
Mm,
father's mother's side, but not from
yeah.
everybody else. So I'm a mixture of everything together. So when you see, you know, my genes in my genetic pool and my life story, it's far away from originality, what people think. And now I realize why, for example, my story about the Count Dracul, it's actually coming because of that genetic pool. I was always driven to that story, and I heard about some stories before. And now Dr. Dennis, actually, he wants me to meet the gentleman who's the ancestor of Bram Stoker. I'm not a fan of him, who actually destroyed the
The
name of my
legacy.
great great uncle. And
He did.
I'm
And
really
the
pissed
guy
off
defended
because
Christendom.
I'm not
I
happy
don't blame
about
him.
that at all.
Yeah.
So my book and I promised to him, just like I promised to beautiful Nakota people that I explain in my book, if you heal my mother, I'm promising you the entire world will know about the magic of the spirit lake. What is the lake of Saint Anne? And basically, I said till the day I die, if I have the last piece of bread, I'll give it to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters here because they saved my mother's life. So I'll never forget that. And the truth with this regarding Vlad, Vlad was a Knights Templar. Vlad was a Order of a Dragon.
And the Knights Templar are still around.
Vlad did marry into my mom's family. So he's my great great uncle, and we love him very much. And my story that is coming on, I think is going to shock most of the world. And I have many people already asking about it. So I'm going to look deep into it to show the world who is Vlad, because Vlad was a fighter of Christianity,
It was.
fighter for the people against Ottoman Empire, far
Yep.
away of what. There was no Lucy, there was no Mina, there was no sexual fantasies that
And if
we
those
see
that
in
want to
those.
stick around, I can give a little, synopsis, maybe a quick history of Vlad, and tell you some things that a lot of people don't know. And so
Yes,
I've done a lot of research, and I studied. He was from Wallachia, which was a
yes,
province
Wallachia. Yeah, yeah.
well, we say Wallachia, but it's Wallachia. Yeah, but
Yeah, I know, because CH you guys read differently. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
just like if you speak in German, it's like a W. It's a W, not a V.
Yeah,
Like if you
yeah.
say
My
Dolphin Radio.
grandpa was German. So my father's grandpa, he was Wendell, so he was German. So that's why I know a lot about all of different sides and different. And he had to hide, for example, that he was German, especially at that time. So they would say that he was Czechoslovakian, but he wasn't Czechoslovakian because Czech Republic and Slovakia are now separate. But at that time was Czechoslovakia, it was a one country. But he was
Yes.
hiding that he was German, but he was German. He wasn't Slovakian. So certain things, when you learn through the history and through your own family, you learn more about your ancestry and about struggles that these people went through. But regarding Vlad is very close to my heart because with Vlad I have a respect. With Vlad I study. Of course, he's a member of my family. He married into my mom's family because my mom's background is 90%. If you go far, far away, during the Knights Templars time, they were part of the UK. So she's originally British. So, and then during the time of as the Templars were moving, they moved with the Celts down. So, and then her father is Italian. So there's a lot of different blood, different languages, different dialects in my home, and different cultures. And I think that's what made me be acceptable of so many different cultures, aspects of people. And I look people judged by their action, by their heart. I don't judge people by the size of their wallet. I don't judge people by their color of the skin, by their belonging of ethnicity or whatever. I judge them by who they are and what kind of action they did. So it doesn't matter if you are the best, like I'm a Greek Orthodox by my, by my faith. So I'm a big Christian, but it doesn't mean that we don't have, wars, that we don't have killers, that we don't have jails because we follow the old tradition. That's utopia. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, I love all of the people as long as they are opening their hearts to each other and respecting each other. And that's who I am. And I know my mother said to me, she said, Danielle, if they put you in the charge of the world, you'll be killed in 2 minutes because you believed in accepting everybody. Unfortunately, in this world, that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, it was good having you on, Danielle. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I'll
Thank
see
you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. God bless everybody.
God bless you. Good night. So that was Danielle Diva Borazon. She's got a show. And I can't remember the name of it now. She's got a channel, but I think that's what it's called. I don't know if somebody could look it up and just post it. I'm a little frazzled here. I'm sorry that I broke down. I'm just I didn't plan it to be. I wasn't planning on this. I just but it just happened. So somebody had made a comment. Let's go to that. Somebody had made a comment about Vlad being. It says here Vlad supported the Crusades. He didn't actually. And the only reason I'm going to say that, Trevor Law, and is because, and I'm not trying to pick out you as something you said being wrong, but the Crusades were pretty much done by the time the Fourth Crusade had already ended, and it was in the 13th century. And Vlad, of course, being from the 1400s, it was not. It was already a done deal. But I'm sure he would have supported him because he was. Yeah, he did. He actually hated Islam with a passion. And Wallachia, whatever you want to say. I can't say it exactly how you're supposed to say it, but that's how we pronounce it. It's a weird thing. And I think one of the reasons why I've been such a fan and student of history is because I've always wanted to know what the hell happened to me. And I do believe that it's very possible. Now, maybe it's not 100%. I don't know. But it could be that my last 3 lives were some sort of Irish gangster in Boston, which is, I do have an affinity for that city. I've never been there. I love Boston. I love watching shows where it's Boston. I'm a Red Sox fan. I mean, I've been a Red Sox fan as long as I can remember because I've hated the Yankees. Like I was born hating the Yankees, and we weren't taught that really here in Texas. We were taught to hate the Yankees from the North. But I wasn't really taught hate the Yankees, the New York Yankees, because my dad was a Yankees fan when he was a kid, and then he hated Steinbrenner, so he quit being a fan. But he didn't instill it in me to hate the Yanks. And they really weren't. It was just the Rangers. The Astros were in the National League in baseball, right? So listen to what I'm going to tell you. The Rangers were never really in anywhere near as good as the Yankees, so they weren't like their rivals or anything. But I hated the Yankees. And I remember when the Red Sox won the World Series. I remember that 2004 was like that big, it was a big deal. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just when they finally broke that wall, I was just rejoicing because I don't know why. I watched that show. And Anthony, I don't know if you're listening, maybe you can type it or something. If you remember what it was called, we watched it about the Red Sox. And my mind is like, I watched it with you and Nelly. And I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was about the Yankees the Red Sox finally defeating the Yankees and getting through, and they broke the curse, and I like the Celtics. I've always been a Celtics fan. I like Larry Bird, a lot of players from those old teams, and so it was just like, God dang, my back is hurting. But it was just, I've always kind of been into the Boston sports, and for some reason I just like Boston, period. The city, and I've never been there. I will. I'm going to go there before I pass. That's something I got to do. It's on my bucket list. It's ridiculous to have gone 4 days in October. I don't know what that's what it's called. It wouldn't have been 4 days in October. It was called something else. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's what it was called. But anyways, it's a documentary about the Red Sox and how they finally put together a team that dethroned the Yanks, and I watched it twice because I'm a big Boston fan. And so it's a weird thing. And then after that, being a German, if this, I believe that too, because I had confirmation from my best friend and from my other good friend's mother. The Comeback. There it is. The Comeback. It was called The Comeback. Check it out. And it's an amazing how that happened. It was just they were in the American League Championship against the Yanks, and they were down 3-0. Go check it out. Do the math. I mean, and they did something that had never been done before, and they broke the curse of the Bambino, which was, Babe Ruth. And so, nothing against Babe Ruth, but it was, it was 100 years of just, however long. It was a long time of them suffering, and enough was enough. I was like, geez Louise, man, I remember the Mets defeating us Astros. I'm an Astros fan first. And I remember the Astros losing to the Mets, and that was a very questionable call, a couple of them anyway, in that game, in that series, and the National League Championship. And so Boston had made it in 1986, right? Roger Clemens. Boston had made it to the World Series. It was, Bill Buckner, what happened to him. And I'm not going to go into real detail about that, but they lost. I remember watching the Mets defeat my Astros, my beloved Astros, and then watching them defeat the Red Sox. And I was crushed. And to this day, I literally hate the New York Mets. I hate the Mets, and I hate the Yankees, and I hate their guts. I do. I've always hated them since I was a kid, and I probably always will. And I don't like New York City. It's a trash pit. It's a den of iniquity. It's garbage. It's all it's ever been. It's all it ever will be. The people that live there, sometimes they have to live there. They have no choice, whatever. But it is garbage time. That's what it is. I've never really seen much. People talk about, I've been there. It's amazing. For what? I have had no desire to go any further beyond Pennsylvania, but I will, because I have to get up there to Boston. And unfortunately, we'll probably have to go and see, whatever. Well, Boston is no better, Jake. That's your opinion. My opinion, though, is that I want to go to Fenway Park. I'm not trying to go all over Boston. I know it's a shithole. I just want to see them and the Celtics. It'd be whatever. But the Yankees could just all light on fire. I don't care about that organization. I despise the Dodgers too. But watching the Dodgers blow them out of the water 4 games straight, yeah. And my money was on the Dodgers, and I'm not a big bettor, but yeah, let's put it that way. Dodgers beat their ass. And I was like laughing so hard at the memes that came out. I never get tired of the Yankees losing. They could lose to the end of time, just like the Lakers. I hate the Lakers too. I can't stand that team. I can't stand them. They always get the skeeviest people to play for them, and I'm not going to get into who. I like Shaq. He was something, and Magic. The rest, just throw them in the waste bin of history. It's just my opinion. It's just, and who cares? It's ball, it's basketball, baseball, football, whatever. But back to this whole Vlad thing. There's this. She's right about Bram Stoker. He went through history and he found a villain, a man that put people on stakes and drank blood, supposedly. And they just said, man, they just went, he made him into a vampire, and he may have been a real bit. We don't know. We know on this channel, at least if you've been around listening long enough, you know that those things are real. But you got to realize too, he was that bad man. He was very important, and he pretty much he stood in the gap between Christianity and oblivion. So the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the popes, the Roman papacy. This isn't the Romans from the ancient times. This was the Roman Catholic Church. Paid him very handsomely to continue to fight, and then he got in trouble because he was doing too much. And there were people complaining like, "Ooh, brother, ooh, why you do that? Why did you put all those people on pikes?" And he's like, "How else am I supposed to terrorize these people into submission?" I mean, the leader, I can't remember the name of the guy who was in charge at that time. I know that his brother, forgot his brother's name, Dracula's brother, if somebody wants to look it up, starts like with an R. He was held captive, and he became one of the generals that even fought against him, having been indoctrinated into Islam. And the Ottomans, they have a sultan. The sultan, he said, Radu, there you go, Radu. I knew it started with an R. I kept thinking ragu. Thank goodness I didn't say it because it was in my mind. I was going to say ragu, and you're going to be like, "Well, I prefer prego," but whatever, No, sorry, folks. It was just in my mind to say ragu. Is Radu was his brother, yeah, and he ended up fighting against him. It was a tragic thing, it was horrible, and they made Vlad's life hell. And so Vlad was just like every chance he got, he killed the shit out of those son of a bitches, and he gave them a lot of trouble. And here's a little piece of history too. A lot of people don't know this, they don't realize this, but the Spaniards have this special hatred. Them and the Portuguese, just absolutely big time hatred up until probably recently. I don't know how it is now, but they had this special hatred for the Muslims. I mean, they absolutely, the siege of Vienna. I would say the Swiss pikemen, funny how they're neutral now, but they used to be like the best pikemen in the world, the halberdiers. They used those weapons to defeat their enemies, and it was the Swiss pikemen and it was the Spaniard cavalry that defeated the Ottomans. Make no mistake, there were some other people involved, the Austrians and the Prussians, whatever, but the real fighting was done by the Spaniards. The Spaniards had this disdain for the Muslims. And you ask why? Because they were ruled by them for hundreds of years, and they were subjected and forced to intermarry. They were forced to give their children, their daughters, and these sultans, I guess you would call them, these sheiks and sultans, they set themselves up as lords over them. And the Spaniards and the Portuguese blood was forever intermingled with Arab and Berber. But they never forgot who they were. And as soon as they got the upper hand, thanks to Charles Martel, the hammer from France, he called them the Spaniard, which is the Spanish bastards. He was a Frenchman, and he gave them that moniker. But he said, if you want to fight and be free, then fight. And we will help you. Because they were Gauls, Gallic. And the Spaniards were their Iberian Celtic brothers at one time before their blood was diluted into Arabic. And so they fought and they defeated them. And once they were driven out, the whole country converted to Christianity right back, like immediately. And they burned down the mosques. They destroyed every single one of them, Portugal and Spain, and they wiped them out. And they had part of the Basque region, which is in between Spain and France. It's a different race of people, group of people. That was taken back over, and then southern France that was dominated by them too. And of course, this was a source of contention. So, a little known piece of history, there was a Spanish contingent that actually went. I think it was, I want to say King Philip, but I'm not for sure if it was King Philip or if it was Isabella. But they sent Spaniards to fight, and they actually had a unit of Spaniards that fought for Vlad the whole time until they were eventually wiped out completely. Now, a lot of people say that that was because he was a Templar, but no. I believe that they were sent there because any chance they got to fight the Muslims and kill them, they took it. And if you look at history, they did. They really did. And they also put a boot in the ass of the Soviets too, because the Azul division, which some, like I said, the conservative estimates were as little as 4,000. That's completely not right. And the very, very liberal estimates, were that there was as many as 400,000 in the Azul division. I'm thinking somewhere in between. There's probably about 250 to 300,000 that went and they fought, and they were at the siege of Leningrad. And this is cold, cold weather, colder than the Spaniards were used to. And the Germans themselves said that they fought with conspicuous bravery and that they were just like fanatical when trying to kill these communists. And of course, Franco, he gave Stalin fits. Stalin wanted him dead. He was like, these people, they got to be punished. And like the day before he died or the day of his death, he was still bitching about Franco when he died. And he had a stroke. And they were just like, wow, dude, like this guy's still angry about it, you little fucker. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. And it was a rough thing, that these um, Spaniards, they kind of got the raw deal, they did. But they were on the road to conquest and they defeated the Aztecs. I don't apologize for that. I'm part Spaniard myself, but I don't go, oh, it was a horrible thing. They destroyed that culture. That culture was killing people like no other race on earth that's ever existed that we know of. They were just murdering people. It was every day, cutting out hearts and throwing them down the temple and all that. And it's not propaganda. They have literally found thousands and thousands of these people who had been killed, cut open, decapitated, had their still beating hearts ripped out. And we did a show about it. And like I said, my mind's not working 100% right now. I'm kind of like frazzled a little bit, and because of the emotion that I had to go through earlier. But oh my back hurt. Thank goodness. Mm. Oh man. Oh my gosh, that feels much better. Whew. Thank you, God. But they found the Templo, what's it called? The Templo Majorum. I can't remember what it was called at that. My mind's not. And they found thousands and thousands and thousands of bodies of people that had been sacrificed. Really, really, and so there was all this, it's not propaganda. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It really happened. And there were a lot of natives that fought for the Spaniards. Big Temple Mayor. There you go, Major. I'm so tired. And so I don't know where I'm getting those other words. But anyways, they fought for the Spaniards, because and it was the Tlaxcalans in particular, but there were also Tabascans and these other minor tribes that aren't even around anymore, ones that you would never even hear about now because they were wiped out, and they were on the brink of being wiped out anyway by their oppressors, the Aztecs. And so they were just ready to do what they had to do. So Christian Arredondo says the Basque kingdoms resisted the Moors. Did they really? Let's see what Google says. Okay, I don't really put much stock into Google, but let's see what they say. They do own YouTube, so let's look up Google. Let's see what they say. I say no. Survey says, how do you type this in? Did the Basque, should we say kingdoms or people? The Basque, how would we word this? Did the Basque kingdoms Resist Islam. Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula is what comes up. And that's a Wikipedia thing here. Arab conquest of Spain. Yeah, because and it talks about here how there was a Visigothic kingdom of Hispania. Yeah, because they had actually conquered and taken it over, and it was a Christian. There's a whole history there before this, but it was the 8th century when the Muslims invaded and took it over. Not seeing anything about them resisting. No, I don't know. And the Basques are Catholic for the most part. And here it talks about Charles Martel. He was the Frankish king, which is France. And it was the Battle of Tours in 732, and that halted the Umayyad Caliphate's expansion, and you got to figure, like, if you're fighting on the home turf, more than likely you got the advantage. That's why the battles that happened in the Crusades a lot of times resulted in the Christians losing, and people were like, "Oh, well, the Muslims were stronger." No, you're in their damn territory, and you're surrounded by them. I mean, it's amazing that the Crusaders were able to do what they did, going into the Middle East and doing it, because they were outnumbered like a fucking 1,000,000 to 1. I mean, come on, freaking heck. But then they returned the favor and they invaded the Middle East after the Middle East and Islam had invaded Europe. They did it first. It was like 100 years after Muhammad, but they did it because he says in the Quran, "Fight the non-believers who are near to you." But they were fighting those that were near to them. Now, I don't really like that passage, and I'll tell you why. Because you fight the non-believers that are near to you, right? So you conquer the neighboring country. Now that is Islam. But it's a commandment that you must fight the non-believers who are near to you. So now that country is ordered to go and fight the next country because that's who's near to them. You see what I'm saying? Then that country is now Islam, so they got to fight the non-believers who are near to them, and they just keeps going and going and going. So the conquest never ends. So I'm not real on board with them when they say, "Well, this is a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace." None of these religions are peaceful. They all had armies, and they all work for money. Okay, there were there was a whole lot of mercenary work going on both sides. Okay, a lot of it. The Essenes, totally murderers for hire that fought, for the highest bidder. Sometimes they would work with the Christians and slaughter their own. They didn't care. It was whatever. And the Templars did the same thing. And it's funny to sit there and watch a really diehard Christian go at it with a Muslim. They'll never give ground. Okay. And I respect that. But the funny thing is that when Islam says that their book has never been changed, it was written by men. And it absolutely was changed. It changed right after, Muhammad died, when it was first written down because of Ali. That's why we have Shiite and we have Sunni. Now, when they come over here or they go to another country, they'll be like, no, we're all on the same side. We're on the same side. You're on the same team. But yeah, I've seen Lebanese who were absolutely Maronite Christian who fought and killed um, Muslims. And then they all come over here and then they're all friends because they're from the same place and there's no war. They don't have to fight. They have the same culture, just a different religion. And they can break bread and they're perfectly fine. They'll tell you that there's no problems. They go back home, they'll murder each other. Absolutely. I'm not even joking. I'm being completely honest. So I've sat there and I've mediated arguments between Christians and Muslims. And these were Arabs that were Christian and Muslim, and they were arguing back and forth. And it wasn't them. They weren't getting violent at all. They were relatives, in fact. And they were just arguing. And so I had to sit there and go, look, you're both right, but you're also wrong. And so it becomes a problem, that these people, they want to believe that they are completely correct and everyone else is wrong. But that's not reality. And if you don't know history, then you're gonna. Yeah, that's why it's so important to know history. Because if you know history, it'll tell you where you're at and where you're headed. And that's a big, big problem that a lot of people just don't know history. They stumble into this. I say stumble because they don't really, and they don't know the history. They don't know geography. They don't know history. They don't do math. They don't have science. They don't have anything. They don't have any kind of basis in religion. All they know is the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. And what they call the Bible is the Schofield redacted, retracted and changed. And the Muslims are able to just run roughshod over them because they're like, yeah, well, that's completely wrong. It's been changed. And Barnabas and this guy and that guy, and everybody changed it, blah, 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 blah. And they're not wrong. It's been highly tampered with. But my argument to them was, so has yours. And they said, no, brother. No, brother. No one has said, this is the word of God, is Allah. Allah was the moon god. He was the chief deity of 249 deities. And they're like, no, we don't worship him. We don't worship the moon god. You just said you worship Allah. Allah was the moon god. No, but I don't worship the moon. I don't care what you. That's who it was. Because Allah predates the name of Allah predates Islam by a long ways, thousands of years. But he was not the chief deity. And the Persians, who are now diehard Muslims, because they were invaded, the non-believers near to them, they didn't serve him. They were Zoroastrian, right? And what's his name? Ahura Mazda, whatever. And then Engamanyu was the bad guy. But in Islam, it's Allah and Iblis. Iblis is the bad guy. But you start to think about this, right? And then somebody just said their symbol is the crescent moon. Yeah, it's the crescent moon. And the temple of the crescent moon, there's a temple, right? And it was said that these temples of the crescent moon, they committed sacrifice in those places. This predates Islam. Now, Islam was said to have put to the sword these people and defeated it and gotten rid of it. And they did. They did do that. They did do they ended a lot of human sacrifice and paganism. There was a lot of wickedry I don't know if that's a word, but there was a lot going on. Well, Justin says Allah is Yahweh. Maybe. Jesus never talks about Yahweh, ever. Never. And everybody says, yeah, Yahweh. Well, that's the Jewish God. And the Muslims put all of their eggs into that basket. That's why they get halal. Halal is identical. If you ever wonder what halal food is, it's the same exact process as kosher. They slice the throat and they back up and just let the animal bleed. It's a horrible, horrible way to die. They're suffocating these poor animals. And they said it's the most clean. It sheds the most blood, which back in the Old Testament, that was the key, was the blood sacrifice. So I don't put that. I mean, you take it for what it is. I'm not attacking Jews or Muslims. I'm just saying, or Christians. I'm telling you the absolute truth. And a lot of people can't handle it. They say that I'm anti-Islamic, that I'm anti-Jewish, I'm anti-Christian. I had a guy who listened to my show pretty regularly. I met him downtown years ago, and he's a Hindu, but he didn't really practice. And then all of a sudden, he started saying that I was speaking out against them, and I didn't. I just said I don't believe like they do 100%. I think that they have some stuff that runs parallel to Christianity and Islam. And he said that when I said I made this comment on the show, and I said their demons and their gods were horrible. They were just terrifying. And I say this again. And I'm sorry that you don't like that I said that. His nickname is Izzy. I'll say Izzy. I'm not going to call you what your real name is, but Izzy, you know me for a long time, and I'm not trying to be ugly. But when you got gods ripping people apart with 4 arms and stuff, what kind of God is that? It's straight out of hell. I mean, let's be honest. But there's some truth there. The Vedas have a lot of truth. Just like the Taoists and the Taoists and everybody else in between in the Buddhism, there's some truth there. But I'm going to say this, and it's going to offend everybody. All religions are wrong. I'm sorry. There's just nothing to support each one of them being correct 100%. The only thing that I absolutely know 100%, and I believe this with all my heart, is that we are to worship the Father of Christ. Now, Jesus tells us who that is over and over again, right? And it's your job to find him. But Jesus makes it easy. You don't have to go run around looking all over the place. And he says the only way to the Father is through him. He doesn't say the only way, there's no way to heaven. You can get to heavenly realms, but you will never see the Father. You're not going to get to where you're going to. And I'm going to say this too. This is going to sound crazy too, but you can go to heaven for 1,000 years. You still have to come back. That's the truth. And they're going to go, let's take a clip of that and make fun of it and say that he's a crazy blah, 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 blah. And they're going to use it to make me look crazy and stupid. And to the untrained observer who doesn't pay attention, these people that do what they do, they're watching me right now. They take things out of context. They take clips and they try to use it to make me look like I'm nuts because they're very ignorant. And I wouldn't trade places with any of you for all the money in the entire world, because where you're headed and what's going to happen to you is beyond awful. It's beyond awful. And I'm going to tell you this, and I say this with all sincerity. Even though you've cursed me, you hate me, you've done the most despicable, horrible, and said the most despicable, horrible things to me, if I saw you in hell burning and it was up to me to help you, I would still reach my hand out, burning it to help you out, because that's who I am. Because that's what Jesus does. That's what he does. But I'm not him, and I don't have that ability. I can't save you from hell. I can tell you you need to stop what you're doing and that you're destroying people's lives with what you're doing. But I know you, and I know you by your works, and I know you won't. It's a foregone conclusion. What's done is done. And you're going to lose everything, not just in this world. You're going to lose it in the next world too. Your fate is sealed unless you really turn your face toward the true God, the Father of Christ, and repent and ask for forgiveness and truly mean it in your heart. Otherwise, it's just empty words. So you really have to stop and look at what you're doing. The road to perdition is wide. It's very wide, folks. And a lot of people have fallen into that road, fallen into that trap. Exactly, Anthony. Tony says we can't expect that from these godless heathens. They're not heathens. Make no mistake of what they are. Heathens actually have a little bit of sanity. These are beyond that, these people. You have to look or you won't find. And the first place you have to look is within, because the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Christ is found where? It's found within. If Christ looks at you and he finds you wanting, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. And guess what? It gets worse. A lot worse. Your name won't be in the book of life. And he'll say, get away. I don't know you. I never did. The people that do these things, this is where I talk about redemption. And listen to what I'm going to tell you. These people are born beyond redemption, because when you're born as a sociopath, it's from a past life. You were given a chance, and you were given another chance, and you didn't do it. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. You continued. And a big part of the problem is our societal norms now is that there's no shame. People don't have any shame. And I'm guilty of it. So are a lot of people. Some people, though, they exploit it. And some people confuse shame. Like they think that they're being honest. They're like, ask them a question. They're like, yeah, I did all that. I'm proud of it. I did all these horrible, nasty things. And then, I was watching this one show and these guys were interviewing this porn star girl, whatever you want to call her. And she was just being brutally honest about it. And I'll be honest, it's the Hodge twins. I watch them every now and then. And I'm just like, God, I can't get into those when they talk to those people because they're just like, yeah, I did all this. And they're just like, there's no shame at all, nothing. And they think that they offset it by being honest, right? Because modesty and honesty are not the same thing. Modesty can actually be quite the lie because it's not really who you are. You're just being modest because you're around church people or you're around the mosque people or the synagogue or whatever it is, whatever religion, temple. So you put on a facade, right? The trick is, if there is a trick to this at all, is just to become who you want to be. If you want to be a better man or a woman, then actually be a modest person who feels shame and doesn't want to embarrass people and wants to do what is right. Otherwise, you're winning the war with honesty. Great. You're being completely honest, but you're a shameful excuse for a person. So, yeah, oldest trade, Patty. Yeah, it is the oldest profession. I did like one of the things she was saying, though. She was saying about, I'm not going to get into what it was, but I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I won that one. But, not going to get into it, like I said, but it was about man and what, whatever. And, but there's shame that should come into your heart in the form of like being embarrassed and a conviction from the Holy Spirit that says, man, this is wrong. I mean, this is completely wrong. This is evil. But that doesn't happen now, does it? And then they're like, oh, I was being honest. Hold on. You got to be kidding me, man. Work never. These people. I don't care what anybody says. I am so sick of these. And then they say, "Oh, the homeless people don't." Dude. This is what I'm talking about, folks. There's a consciousness that's at work that is causing these people to be like a virus, like zombies. And they are evil. And I don't care what anybody, you're not going to convince me that this is not done. This is something's controlling this, is making it happen. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, folks. I got to deal with this. My phone's almost dead. It's not something I want to do on the show, but I don't have a choice because it's work. One day, maybe I'll be free. We got about 10 minutes and they're going to run. Yeah, and D hit the nail on the head here. We're in the time of sorrows. The army of darknesses are showing themselves more and more, and you're seeing more and more of this paranormal activity, which, like Danielle said, it's actually just normal to a lot of us. She made a distinction between me and her, but honestly, I don't. I feel like I see it a lot more than most people, and I've experienced it a lot more than most people. I cut myself off from it a long time ago because it's draining, and it's and I can feel and see people's negativity or positivity. And when these people send these things to us, and make no mistake, they're at war. We're spiritual war. A lot of those people that are on that side, they're witches. I'm not even joking. And you know it's true. Don't pretend and don't go run over there and say, they called us witches. You are. You're either witches doing it willingly or you're being controlled. But it's your wanton way, and you're going to be what you are. It's a manipulation of the spirit. But people, make no mistake, you're at fault for being manipulated. That's the problem. It's on you. It falls on your head. The hot coals will be poured on you either way. Sailor Nemesis. What's up, Sailor? I saw part of the video. And she says here, why are all women judged? No, I'm not judging all women. What are you talking about? Did you hear? I hope you're not talking about me. Are you saying that I'm judging all women from that? I hope not, because I know a lot of women who are good, modest people, even in the younger generation. I've seen them go up to these people and on videos and be like, "Do you believe in Christ?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Would you do all this and that? And they're like, "No." So even though it's very prevalent, the media, which is disgusting and vile, they try to, basically push this narrative that it's always been like this and that nothing is going on. There's nothing satanic going on here. It's always been this way. And it's okay. Right? And this is the norm now. That's not the norm. They're still in the minority, but they're flipping the script to make it look like this is everywhere. You know why? Because the people that control this evil world, this matrix that we're living in, I'm going to tell you what they're doing. They're actually putting the people that they've been able to buy and sell. They bought and sold these people, soul, hook, line, sinker, physical, mental, spiritual, and they put them up on a pedestal. And they say, this is what you should aspire to be. Then you listen to these people talk with no shame and no humility at all, and they brag on themselves, and they don't tell the truth ever. Yeah, I did all this. I'm with these hoes, and I did all, and I did this and I did that. And yeah. And the moment the truth comes, and you're sure, whatever. And this is what you should aspire to be like them. But that's not what is reality. And they're going to, and Trevor just says they're trying to program us. Absolutely. I agree with that too. And I think he's going to learn if he hasn't found it yet. I mean, he probably already did, but I mean, no, Saley didn't say anything wrong. What I was talking about is, and white phosphorus. Hey, what's up, Garetano? He says they definitely moving people like pawns. They are. Nemesis, I'm talking about, you had said something about, I think all women are whatever. Not me, because I don't think that. My wife's not that way. They've said some horrible, disgusting things about her, but it's not true. It's not. I do my research too. And there was no offense to anybody, but I know who I married. Okay. And they keep saying, oh, they didn't get married. We got married. In the eyes of God, we are married because we did our own ceremony. Now, if you're looking for a legal piece of paper, no. Because in Texas, you don't need that. That's the law. It's common law. So we didn't want to live. This is the truth. Me and Nellie did not want to live together and not be married because we didn't know what we wanted to do. So we set our vows before God. So we're married. But in Texas, because in Texas, it doesn't matter. If you file your taxes, you do whatever, you live together. This is, just so you know, it doesn't matter. But the truth is the truth. And they say all these horrible things about us and all this other crap, and they think it's cute and funny and whatever. I don't know why they do what they do. They're insane. And they're driven by demonic forces. And so I said this. What's more important? What's more important to you? Being married in the eyes of God or getting a piece of paper in the eyes of man? Because I love my wife and I've never cheated on her and she's never cheated on me. And I know that. And they can say what they want. They can say all these crazy nonsense things. You know why I know? Because we spend almost every waking minute together. And it's not forced. It's by choice. I can't get away from her. I try, folks. I try. I get in my vehicle and she runs down, chases me down. I bought her a moped to slow her down. She souped it up and got a big old engine in it. Folks, I need help. She's after me. Stop, please. This is not a joke. She is stalking me. Hey, honey, how you doing? How's it going? I was just telling everybody how much I love you. Okay, all right. Don't watch the replay. You don't need to. You don't need to do that. Don't be. Come on. Oh my gosh, now you're gonna go watch the replay. Why? Because you don't trust me. You don't trust me. See, I'm making a joke, folks. I'm joking. Exactly. And Valerie just said that. It doesn't matter. I love this woman with all my heart. And when we set our vows, it was for rich or poor, for better or worse. We've hit some rough times. We got that ranch by the grace of God. We were in there. We were able to, because I opted out of where we were at. And I was like, look, I'm not going to, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but you know what we did? We put our faith in God. I said, look, whatever you want, Jesus, lead me, lead me. Do what you got to do. And we ended up where we needed to be. And we're struggling. We're not doing great financially right now. So what? I know if push comes to shove, this is why I have this. This isn't just to wear around so I could be like, yo, what's up, yo? There's reasons. Trust me, there's reasons. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to divulge it, but there's reasons for it. You could always melt it down and turn it into something valuable if you have to, if you absolutely have to. And it's about that time where I'm going to start getting rid of some stuff because gold has hit an all-time high, but it's going to get higher. Wait till, if you have gold and you're thinking about selling, hold on to it till after April 2nd. Do yourself a favor. Have I been wrong? I've told you guys economically, right? You know, Solomon asked for wisdom. And when I was a young man, I was basically still a child. I was like 12 or 13. I really pondered it. I thought about it very hard. And I thought, what would I ask for? And I thought I would ask for what Solomon did. Because when he asked for wisdom, God gave him wisdom. Through that, not only was he blessed by the Lord for his answer, because it was a wise answer, but according to the legend, and I do say legend, I don't know if it's exactly canon, but he did not only receive the blessings of God, but he was getting that wisdom. He used it. He used it to become enormously powerful and enormously wealthy. And I thought, this is what you need to do. And at that time, I didn't even know about the ring and the jinn and all that and the demons. I just knew that he had asked for wisdom and he was blessed by God. And I thought, I want wisdom. I want to know. And then Jesus confirms it when he says, knowledge, seek out knowledge. I posted something on my Facebook. Go look at it. It says, why do you think that the crowd shouted for Barabbas? It wasn't because they liked Barabbas. They loved Barabbas. I had an accident, folks. I'm a little rashed up and we got cut. Rocks are sharp. Don't fall. But so they wanted Barabbas because they hated the truth. That's what it was, because Jesus was telling them uncomfortable things. And still, people look at the Bible and all these other books and they act like Jesus was never here and he never spoke. And I'm telling you that things aren't the way you think they are. And when I tell you this, these dogs out there, they go nuts. They start barking and they start thinking that they're going to find an Achilles heel to attack. Let me tell you something. Newsflash, if you haven't found it yet, it's been 6 years. You're probably not going to. I think Oak Island has a better chance of giving up all of its treasure. Right? You're still watching that? Listen. you're not going to win. It doesn't matter. You can commit all the atrocities in the world. You can cast spells all day long. And three of these people are actually devout witches. 3 of them. 2 of them are admitting it. They've admitted it. They've come out and bragged. One of them she's hiding out about it, pretending like she's a good person. She may be one of those that tries to reconcile Christianity with the stuff that she does. But it doesn't work that way. Oil and water separate. And believe me, I'm not judging you. You do what you do, but you're going to pay the ultimate price. And like I said, there will be a day, and there's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth, and these people like that, and the people like them are going to suffer very bad. So Sailor Nemesis, you and I think your name is a play off of Sailor Moon. Am I correct in that? I'm not for sure 100%, but I think that's what the Nemesis was the bad guy, right? I didn't really watch it that much. It was on a couple times. And so if you were to be so inclined, I would like to get you on the show at some point real soon, because you had an experience with a lechusa, and that was very interesting. I still have not seen, what that was, what it looked like. Madeline says Sailor's video was terrifying. So let me know, Sailor, if you could please email me, because I don't have any contact information for you. I don't know how to get in touch with you. So if you're listening, please send me an email, PRT Podcast, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. All right, folks, we've hit the 3-hour mark. This show was going to be different. I didn't expect it to be. I did want to talk to Danielle about this, and I'd been meaning to talk to her in private about it, and it just kind of happened. And it just, if you want to hate me, hate me. If you want to believe me, believe me. If you want to think I'm a liar, think I'm a liar. I don't care. I'm beyond at this point caring anymore about all of this. I know I had said that there would be a stream after this. I think I'm going to do it tomorrow night. We'll probably do Rumble tomorrow night, and I'll make an announcement and let you guys know how I feel when I come back from the conference in San Antonio. So, yeah, that's what's going on. So if you're in the San Antonio area or you live close enough to drive, I will be there tomorrow. I'm going. So for the 350 people that are in here, thank you for sticking around and tuning in. Sorry if the show didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but that's just the way the show is. It just goes the way it goes. And now we have to say goodnight. So if you would just hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you to those that donated, and the memberships, mostly what we got tonight, people with memberships. There is no giveaway at this time because we are out of like 4 sizes now. We're out of XL, 2XL, 3XL, and almost out of large. So we're waiting to re-up, but it looks like we're going to get a big order. We're going to be doing a big order at the end of the month, and it's going to be like 100 shirts. So those will come in, but those will be different than anything you can get on the store. The store is not going to have those same shirts that we're going to give you on the giveaway. So you can still buy a shirt at the store and still win a shirt. It'll be different things. We did it that way so you wouldn't get 2 of the same thing. If you wanted to buy a shirt, you're not going to get that shirt on the giveaway. It's not going to be the same thing. So Tony Mendez says, I never got my black hat. When did you win, Tony? Because we got about 20 things here that need to be mailed off. And I didn't realize that they had not been mailed off until I came in tonight and I saw them all sitting there. So I was pleasantly unsurprised by that. Or I was unpleasantly surprised by that. Put it that way. So that will happen. We'll be mailing those off, but it probably won't be till Monday, unfortunately. And like I said, there's about 20 of them out there. I don't know how many exactly. And tomorrow, like I said, I'll be in Schertz, Texas, right outside of San Antonio, at the conference. So come check it out if you're in the area, whatever. Yeah. Paula says, and thank you for everything you do. And I'm sorry you're going through this. It is what it is. These people, they're crazy people. And the other things that I'm going through, there's a lot that I'm going through right now. I have a health issue too, and it has nothing to do with my weight. You see, people keep calling me. I'm not. Look at the dude. I am not this big lard guy that they keep saying. They're full of crap. Go to the conference. You want to see me? I'll be there. And I'm not this obese person. You can see my body. I'm not obese. Okay. These people are just like full of crap. Okay. The last conference, I've lost 45 pounds since that conference. So they keep showing pictures, and they've gone back 2, 3, even 3 years in my Facebook and gone, look at them, whatever. And I've always been big. I mean, but it's funny because these people that are saying all this, they're all fat. I'm not even joking. They're all fat people. I mean, I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. They are. They're all a bunch of fat people. The main guy, he's a little ball-headed, hunchback-looking fat dude. I mean, that's what he is. He's got skin tags all over him, and it's not even trying to be ugly or mean right now. I'm being honest. You shouldn't throw rocks, dude, and say they're Bigfoot, but you also shouldn't throw rocks when you live in a glass house. And the things that you say, there's no justification for it. You can say whatever I've said in retaliation for what you've said, whatever he said, she said, whatever. The things that you do and say and you type on there is unbelievable. And it shows a glimpse into the demonic mind of these people. They're unhealthy physically, mentally, and spiritually. These people that do, they're unwell, right? If this was the old days, they'd be in a straitjacket. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's something that it just blows my mind. The things that they come up with, and they make it under the guise of like, oh, I know him personally. Not one person in that group knows me personally. Nobody. There's one guy, the roofer, that worked with us, and I kept him at arm's length. I was only around him once at the conference, and then once at the other conference, and then I maybe talked to him twice in person. The rest of it was on the phone. He had nothing to do with me. And they go around saying they know me personally. No, you don't. You're liars. And I don't even drink, and I haven't drank for years. So they said, oh, he had a few drinks. He started talking about his child. I haven't drank in years, dude. So, talking about these things, you have no idea what you're saying. You're just out there rambling, saying a bunch of shit and throwing it to the wall, see what sticks. Well, it's not, none of it sticks because it's all bullshit. But go and look at Paranormal Roundtable, the actual big group that we have. Hasn't grown much in the last few years because we've kind of neglected to grow it. We haven't really tried because every time we send out invitations, Facebook says that we're spamming or something, so we can't grow. I'm not even joking. They've stymied us. These platforms, these social media platforms, have done nothing to help us and everything to hinder us. And then these people mass report us like crazy. And then they get mad when our people do it back. Well, you're actually on there saying horrible things. That's what happens. And I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm just being honest I'm just being brutally honest. But that's, honesty is not respected unless it's some garbage coming out, juicy garbage coming out about somebody. Then it's like, oh, they're being honest. Strike a balance between modesty and honesty, and let's bring shame back because shame needs to be in the equation. Really does. Okami says posting on Rumble first, YouTube saying I wouldn't. That'd probably be a good idea. And Bob says, thanks, Josh. I have a new here. I like that 888. That's cool. That's actually the number of Christ. I don't know if you knew that. People have no idea the pressure we carry as knowers and trackers of these monsters. Yeah, no, it's true. There are people who actually know how to find these things. And some people just go outside and they come to them. I believe it's all vibration and frequency too. And I don't care what anybody says, they're metaphysical. All of them are. Because we are. We really are. We're just more in a dense reality. But they can move in and out of it. And that's something that we will be talking about in the future. And on Sunday, we'll be back on Sunday. Tomorrow night, we might do a Rumble if I'm up to it, if I need to, if I feel like I need to. If these people just want to keep going, then I'm going to put some people on hardcore blast. And you're going to be real angry and real sorry because I'm going to pull out a lot of stuff. I have it ready. I'm hoping that you come to your senses and continue this nonsense. You're going to be in big trouble. But come Sunday, we're going to talk about an encounter that this guy's grandfather talked to him about, because everybody loved that when we covered about the Lakota, and well, it wasn't about the Lakota, but the guys that were at the camp in South Dakota. And so this one is along those lines. I've been holding on to this one for a while, and I reached out to the guy, and I told him to watch that one. I showed it to him. He didn't. I don't think he watched all of it. He said yesterday that he'd seen part of it, but he liked it, and he was like, "Well, yeah, that's kind of what I've been saying, because these are stories. These right here are stories that were lost to time, and these are only stories that people can come with, Unfortunately, not everybody's the best at speaking or speaking publicly." And his grandfather used to be in charge of a very large company. He still sits on the board of directors of that company. So I'm not going to say his last name, his grandfather's last name, but that's his mother's dad anyway. But he is a part of that family. But a very interesting guy nonetheless. And I really enjoyed talking to him. He was a pretty interesting guy. And his name is Adrian. So Adrian will be our not guest, but we're going to retell stories on Sunday. Because if he wanted to be a guest, he wanted me to change his voice, and I was like, and I'm not going to do that because it's going to sound weird. Somebody talking like that. And so I told him, I said, "How familiar are you with the show?" He said, "Well, I'm kind of new. It's only been a couple months," and he's only listened to the podcast episodes. He had never watched the stream. So I said, "Look, okay." So he doesn't really know, because people that only listen to the podcast, they're barely scratching the surface, and they don't know. They're not getting what you're getting, right? If you're listening to this, you're doing way better. You're further along than they are. They're way behind the 8 ball. So he said, he don't listen to the podcast, and he decided he wanted to reach out to me, and he thought everything was a pre-record. I said, "Well, no, I'm going to tell your story live." And when I asked him to come on live, he was like, "Oh, no, I'm not going to do that." So that's a lot of people that don't want to do it live. They want to do a pre-record where I can take stuff out, whatever, if they mess up. And that's understandable, because a lot of people are not comfortable with this. And if you've noticed, some of these people that host these really big podcasts and really big YouTube channels, and this isn't cracking on anybody, I'm being very honest. What they do is they edit out all the mistakes and everything, and they drop the show, and they do an edit of it. And most of them do. Because whatever you do live is just there. It's just there. Like tonight, I broke down and I cried because I had that emotional baggage that I was carrying for so long. And, believe it, or if you don't want to believe it, it's up to you. I don't care what you want to do. But these people, they do this, and they want it to be like something where, if I make a mistake. So if they're not real comfortable with coming on and just talking without making a mistake, especially when it's an in-depth story or encounters and stories of encounters and all together, whatever. And believe me, when I get these encounters, and I'm not cracking on anybody, but it is some of the time it's really frustrating. I got really frustrated the other day with somebody, and I'll publicly apologize to this guy, Steven. You know who you are. I told you I'm a man of my word, and I apologize. I lost my cool a little bit. I lost my cool. I did. Because I thought you were putting me on at one point, because it seemed like you were jumping around so bad that I thought you were messing with me. And you got to understand something, Stephen, and I said this before on the message. This is something for everybody, and for you in particular, sir. It's not an excuse for me snapping, because I did kind of accuse you of this, because I thought, really, I did, but I'm getting trolled constantly. So I thought that's what you were doing. And it turns out I'm about 99% sure you're not now. And you were just jumping around, and you were just like, that's the way I talk. Well, that was an extreme example. There are examples of people where you try to get this information from them, and some people, and don't let this scare you, because I'm not usually like that, but this guy was really jumping around, and I was just like, I said, I can't follow this. I just got frustrated. I'm a human being, and I'm sorry, but I got a little bit emotional. I said, look, I can't follow this. This is, you keep changing the names. I couldn't follow. I said, this is too much, too fast. And normally I just kind of listen, then I go back and I ask the questions, but this guy was talking so fast. And so, the rapid firing of this, and it was just, it sounded like it was interesting, and I can make it sound like I can put it together for you and make it into a good story. But there's a limit. There's, you can only do so much with something somebody gives you. And when they're doing it in that way, you're just going like, what the heck, and I was just like trying to keep up. And I had conducted another interview before, and I could do 2, maybe 3 a day. Right. But this one was like, I was like, dude, I am really having a hard time with this. Let me get back with you. And then he didn't want to talk to me. And so I told him, I said, look, I apologize. And I said, I'm going to publicly apologize to you. And I plan on doing it on Sunday, but I just said, I'll do it now. But I'm sorry. And I told you I can't talk to you. And I finally just, but then I tried to call him back, and he didn't want to talk. There are people, when they give you the story, they don't follow any kind of rules or pattern, and there really isn't any. And they'll tell you one encounter. And I kind of made a joke about it. I don't know if Anthony, if you're listening, but it was me and Anthony were talking about it yesterday or the day before on the way to the gym. And I just was like, I told him about this one individual, and I said, look, what do you think? I mean, when they can't communicate it correctly, what am I supposed to do? Good night, Miss Outspoken. She says, I can't take it. She's like, I'm tired of your gas. I got to get out of here. You just keep huffing and talking and puffing, and I can't stand it. I'm joking. No, she just says she's a tard. But anyways, no, seriously though, like there's this sort of formula that I like to follow, and I try to ask people, hey, just give me this part, so I can kind of keep it together. And I felt like whenever I would ask this person that, I felt like what he was doing was purposely going around and circumventing what I was asking. I felt like he was doing it on purpose. And I felt like that was his goal. At that point, I was just like, okay, I've asked you multiple times. And then he was like, okay, look, and he's like, I got ADHD. I said, well, so do I, or I did, supposedly. But I told him, I said, there's also this, decorum here. And he kept cussing and whatever. And I was like, look, I don't care if you cuss. I cuss too. But it was extreme. And I've had this before where I've had to tell people, you know what, I'm just not going to be able to do this. I just can't. But this one, I just was like, I raised my voice and I got upset. So we're going to try and do it again. We're going to go back on Monday, and I'm going to do it early in the day, and I'm going to try and talk to you and get your information. He's got to work all weekend. I am sorry. I looked you up. You are a real person. But it was just, it was hard. And I'm only telling you this because that way you get a peek behind the curtain. You know what I got to go through. This is not easy. People say, oh, he goes and sits his ass in front of a camera and a microphone, like 2 or 3 times a week or whatever. That's not what happens. That's not what I'm doing. We're not just like coming and sitting here behind a camera 2 or 3 times a week. You don't realize how much goes into this. You're not understanding. I think maybe if you really could grasp, what we go through. Not just me, but everybody on the team. We deal with a lot. And you try not to offend people because they're opening up their hearts to you about what they're telling you. And you don't want to be ugly or rude, but then at some point you're just like, and I'm not justifying it, getting upset. I don't do it very often. A lot of people have spoken to me and they know I don't do it. I don't get very upset. A lot of these people are not listeners of the show, and they're not going to watch. Maybe they'll watch their episode. But I try to be as kind and as courteous as possible, because I could interview a million people and maybe one of them will say he's a good guy. I interviewed 3 people and if I'm rude to them, they're all going to go out and post it everywhere. You'll be all over Reddit. You'll be all over everything saying you're a piece of shit. I guarantee it, because people aren't going to take the time to say, I had a great talk with him. He's a good guy. Hardly anybody does that. And I'm not complaining about it. It's thankless, but that's the job, right? That's what you do. But the minute you say something rude, they're like, I'm going to put you on blast. I'm going to mess you up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And why is that? Why is it that human nature is always to run toward the negative and say and do some of the meanest, nastiest things you can come up with because this person offended you? But if this person did you a solid, you don't feel compelled to say anything good about them. In fact, I'll say this. There's a couple from Kentucky that I was very close to in this community. They wouldn't even thank me publicly for everything I did for them. They would be like, oh, you know who you are. Like, why is that? I thought about it one day. I don't need congratulations for doing what's right, but I did a lot of solids with these people. And then they turned on me and began to trash me. Now, maybe they were a little bit tricked too, but they were really mean, really nasty, said some horrible, horrible things. It's all on PRT News, right? And don't go mess with them. I don't want them being messed with. I'd forgive them. They did it was pretty bad. It was rough. It was hard to take, especially from friends. But they never said very much publicly good about me. It was every now and then they say something kind of whatever. But the minute it was like, oh, let's attack them, it was all just, it was an avalanche of crap. And all of the good things were overlooked and ignored. Every good thing I had ever done was like it never happened. And every little bad thing that they could think of was magnified 1,000 times, and you were put to the screws. The screws were put to you. You've all experienced this, I'm sure. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and Anthony, you're probably right. I don't want to believe it, but yeah, they were working behind my back even then. And I guess I'm a fool for thinking people are friends, but I don't know. Danielle says, hey, John. Well, my name is Josh, but that's fine. She says, long time podcast listener. I emailed my Dogman Paranormal Encounters. Good. Do me a favor and resend it. Like, just not, you don't have to resend the whole thing or whatever, but just say who, your name, whatever, so I can find it, because I would love to get to talk to you. Either I can retell them or you can come on the show and tell them. But I get a lot of them. And so the email fills up and I go every day and I clear it out, but it fills right back up. So we just have to keep going. So that's the thing, and so, like I said, I apologize to Stephen, and we're going to work it out, because you have a heck of a story. I will say this, be careful, when people tell you that you're ADHD, that doesn't mean to go run and grab Adderall. I'm not talking about him in particular, just anybody, because they did it to my godson, one of them, that lives up in Colorado, and when he was a child. And he openly talks about it. I mean, but it messed him up. So when they tell you, oh, your kid's hyperactive, shit, he's a kid. It's a child. That's what they do. They run around, they bounce around, and they break stuff, right? I mean, it's funny because I think all children do this. I had a DVD player, and when I was babysitting one of my cousins, they stuck a grilled cheese sandwich into the not the DVD player, the VCRs. Yeah. And me and Squid were talking about it. His daughter Camille did that. Went and, It happened. She did with a peanut butter sandwich, but the same thing happened. And we were hellraisers back in the day, and we acted like kids when we were in our 20s. We were probably doing that. But when you're a child, you speak as a child. You get older, you're like, I'm not going to do this. It's crazy. You don't do this kind of crap. But it's nuts. But they're just children. And then we're like, well, we got to medicate them. We got to put them on dope. Kid's got to take a bunch of stuff or he's not going to act right. We don't want him here to school. Blah, 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 blah. Best thing you can do is take your kids out of school and homeschool them if you have time. If you can't do it, you don't have time, then find a really good school and be very, very, very active and pay attention. And be careful who you let your kids around. And not just because they could get molested or hurt or attacked or whatever, but because people will put dangerous ideas in their heads, and their friends are the worst enemies. The worst thing you can have when you're young, people, if you're in your 20s, don't hang around with other 20-year-olds. I know it sounds crazy, but you're not going to come up with anything but monkey shit. You might have some of the best times of your life, or you could end up being killed because you're around stupid people wearing bad idea jeans. And thank God I didn't die. And thank God I hung around with people of all different ages. I had older people, about 10, 15 years older around, that were like, hey, that's stupid. Don't do that. So, and I've talked to a bunch of my friends and their spouses and and everybody, and they all did a bunch of crazy stuff when they were young. So, a child acting wild and having, whatever. Yeah. And then the first thing you got to do is go run and grab some medicine and give it to them so they'll stop and behave so that you don't have to deal with it. This became a thing back in the 80s. That's when it really started to take hold. But before that, we didn't do that. Kids were just kids. And you got your ass beat, your mom and dad, whatever, because you didn't behave. And then now it's like, oh, well, this is what needs to happen. Says who? The doctors are like, well, we think what's best for us is that your whole family's on meds. Yeah, no shit. I'm sure you do. You probably really think that that's what's best for you because it's going to line you and the pharmaceutical industry that bribes you. It's going to line your pockets. Right? That's what's happening, isn't it? So that's what's going on. Then they become addicted to it. And then you keep taking it until it becomes the psychosis. You don't have the psychosis. It was always a ruse. And you were just the rube. And then it becomes the psychosis. Do you understand how this game works? There is no money in a cure. There's money in sickness. There's money in war. There's no money in peace. The countries that do the fighting, though, they go broke. And the Krupps, one of the big families, right? Offshoots of the Rothschilds, they win. They make all the money. They armed Germany and Russia. You know that? They armed Japan and Italy. They armed Britain and France and told them, here's your weapons. They armed China. They armed everybody. And they backed up and said, smoking a cigar, go to war. Make us some more. That's what they did. It's going to keep happening. Now, Patty says it's a Rothschild thing. It sure is. Yeah, apparently there is rubber duckies and candles. There's money in that. There's rubber duckies in them there hills. You got to pray for these people, man. I'm telling you. Yeah, exactly. They don't need a pill. They need a bicycle. Exactly, Anthony. Anthony's paying attention. Because when I was a kid, you know what I did? I worked it out by getting on a bike because my parents refused to give me Adderall. Thank God. Thank God. It was Ritalin, right? And that was it. Andres says, I was on a live stream. I said on someone commented that someone answered a question you asked where I did and someone was with me. Yeah, I remember you. Of course you. But show back up on Monday because Monday we do the open lines again and there'll be a bunch of people in the queue. So the sooner you can get in, you get in first, you can come out and tell your story quicker. And we did that because, not because we just wanted to have an extra day to do this and have to pay somebody to work our shifts, But because we wanted to be able to get people's stories out, because there were too many people trying to tell their stories, you know. And then, you know, there's some people like I said, like they'll just be like, so, you know, like I have this encounter, right? I have this encounter, and they talk about all kinds of stuff. And I can't tell them, hey, look, man, I got an hour and a half here. I got things I got to do. You know, I got a Zoom meeting, or I got to meet with clients for my job, because I have a job, a career, and this isn't it. And then they don't understand that you have to have time. So hell yeah, I wake up every day at 10, 11 a.m. because I go to bed at 7. It sounds like you're sleeping in. You're not sleeping in. You're going to bed at 7 a.m. You're waking up at 11 o'clock. Typically, I don't get up at 10. I usually 11. Sometimes 10:30. Not usually. It's about 11 o'clock. And I'll get up. The next thing you know, hit the ground running. After I say my morning prayer, I get up and I do what I got to do. 2-3 times I talk to somebody, the worst are when I have to sit there and type it out, and I have to. My fingers have all been messed up, so I got to type it all out. I got to sit there and talk to these people while they tell me, messaging back and forth, and it's the hardest. That's the hardest, even though it's written out like that. My mind doesn't work that way. My mind can record it either way, but it's much easier if I can speak to the people. But you can't always talk to the people, but just message you or email you. And then you got this guy bragging, yeah, I got over on him. Ha ha ha. I told him a lie and he retold it or whatever. What does that say? That says about you, not me. And I don't remember your story, because when I looked into it, that's not even true. I didn't tell your story. I don't remember you at all. But who knows? But the bottom line is this. I mean, if you're that kind of an evil person that you're going to do that to deceive everybody, then that's what you do. But that speaks volumes of you. You were a listener of those other people over there that I was talking about earlier. And you were bragging about it. You thought it was cute. So when you have that kind of crap going on, what do you think? You're going to get testy at some point. Not making excuses, but you're going to have issues. You're going to be like, I don't trust completely easy anymore. Lots of people complaining they sent me friend requests. How easy do you think it is for me to approve that now after Mike? That's his name. That's one of the antagonists. What do you think I'm going to do? Because that's multiple Mike, right? He's multiple. He's got he's multiplicity. He's got 1 million accounts. You're not going to have a lot of trust after that. Patty says it's a waste of time. Well, I don't think you're wasting your time being here. But anyway, that's a glimpse behind the curtain. Like I said, that way you know what I'm talking about. It's not magic. You know, there's a lot of work involved, a lot. And some of the people who say, well, this is made up, whatever. Let me explain something to you people. This right here, it aggravates the hell out of me, because if I had that ability and I was capable of it, and it's not AI, I can promise you that. But if I had that ability, don't you think I would be doing fiction and I would be a millionaire right now? Do you know how much money you could make doing that? You would be writing screenplay after screenplay after screenplay. Now, I'm not going to tell you that some of the work that we've covered, you couldn't take and make it into something, you know, but you'd be playing off of somebody's stories that they claim are real. But you could do that. You know, somebody could do that. You know, I don't think it's ethical really, but that you could, unless you had permission from those people. But here's the thing, and you really don't have to. You could just change it or whatever and make it into fiction, whatever the hell you want to do. But the bad thing is that there are people who do make up these with the AI generator. They have this AI, whatever. But if you had that kind of ability, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be doing this. I guarantee you, you'd be selling screenplays, and you'd be working for whoever for a lot of money, or you'd be writing books like Stephen King. So that's dumb as shit right there. That to me, I'm just like, I wish that I had that I could superpower, you know, because, you know, you can tell when somebody's making something up, because I listened to people, and there are stories that were pretty amazing that you've never heard, because then I'm not going to say who they are. They probably could figure it out because I never told them. because I thought, man, this person, maybe most of it's true. And then some of it you're going like, you lost me with that. I mean, and maybe because now I know so much about this stuff that some of it may have been really, it may have been, and I may have lost some people from that. And for that, I'm sorry. There's a couple that come to mind. One of them about the LBL. I thought, and this is crazy. It was devil monkey stuff, you know. And then I end up hearing it on another channel, and I'm like, well, I probably should have told the story. I didn't, you know. But you know. And then Anthony says, y'all watch live as Wolf got a story while on the job, and that's where they come from. Everyday people. Yeah, from everyday people. That's where they are. Sometimes we'll have somebody who's, you know, who's known or whatever. They come on and tell their encounters or whatever. We didn't get to Danielle's. Danielle had some. We just ended up talking about reincarnation and stuff. But the bottom line is this: if you have that ability to take stories and turn them into whatever, you know, whatever the hell, you know, it's a skill, right? You would have a skill, and you could probably make a lot of money. And mine, I just think it's memorization and the ability to craft what they say and turn it into something that it is, you know. And for you haters out there, pay attention, because if you could learn to do these things, you could probably do a lot better. Because I've heard you guys try to tell a story and it sounds like dog shit. I mean, and it's not, I'm not trying to be mean. Like I said, I'm just being completely honest. I couldn't listen to you for 5 minutes. Horrible. And I think that those are even made up. But you're just, the way you tell it, your presentation, the way you do it is there's no dramatization to it at all. And you're not faking the funk when you dramatize it, because this is what these people go through. When you see something that looks like an 8-foot tall werewolf, you're going to have some sort of, there's going to be some emotion. There's going to be some heightened, and you need to relay that. That's most important. And the main thing is that you have an ability to make a connection, a human connection with that person. Everybody that you meet in your life, let me give you a tip here. Everybody that's listening are still here. You need to find a common ground with that person immediately. Common ground is very important, because find something that you and that person have in common and do it quick. It's not being insincere. It's called really caring and actually making a connection. If you don't give a shit, then don't worry about it. Just keep being a dickhead. But some people are really good at that too. They're really good at making a connection with somebody and then slithering around and then coiling around them and then using them. They make a living off of that. And what you got to do is be a sincere person and make a connection with that person, because you actually care to make a connection with that person. That makes you a decent human being. And you can actually practice at being a decent human being, expelling preconceived and being predisposed to negativity. Expel that and give that person a chance. Even if they're rude at first, maybe they're having a bad day. You don't know what just happened. Their dog might have just got hit by a car. I say that through experience. I've met people and they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then like next time you talk to them, they're different. It's happened to me at the gym, and I'm like, what, bad day the other day or what? They were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you were kind of off-putting, and now you're being very friendly. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, you seem like a nice person. When they're like, yeah. And this guy started telling me about how his girlfriend had just wrecked and totaled his car, and she nearly died. Look, she was perfectly fine, but she's lucky to be alive. And he was telling me about this. It was years ago at 24-Hour Fitness. And he was telling me, I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I mean, he didn't relay it to me. He's just a dickhead. But you know what? He ended up being a really cool guy, and I stayed friends with him we're still friends to this day. And we made a connection. You know? I mean, we just, you start to talk to people, and he's all into the weightlifting and taking supplements. I'm into that and all that, and we made a connection, and then, that's it. You find common ground. If you can't find common ground with everybody you talk to, then something's wrong. Because there's something that you have in common with that person. If nothing else, you're like, dang, we both have brown eyes. Most of the population does. Wow. Welcome to the brotherhood. You don't got to be insincere about it. Just be, this is what it is. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's just learning how to talk to people and dealing with people. If you can't get stories, I'm going to make a suggestion to you. And if you have a channel, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. Get off your ass, stop driving 20 minutes down the road and go walking around the same old woods you go into all the time, and take your ass into town. Well, most people don't like you in town probably, but if you're a normal person, go somewhere where there are people and make a connection, or get on YouTube and stop being fake and make a real connection with people. Instead of having 1,000 faces and pretending to be, your Manny faces from He-Man, why don't you just, try to be a real person? See how that works for you. Because I promise you, you could. Kimberly says, my eyes changed color. Was that say about me? It says you're very unique. Because I can find common ground with just about anybody. Because you got to remember, we're all human. We're all people. People go through hell, dude. And everybody's just they're struggling. They're just trying to make it, man. They're just trying to make it. Give people a chance. I don't give them so much of a chance that they hang you. I'm just saying, you got to give people a chance. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. Sorry for the long rant. It just, I think it needed to be said. And, I'm sorry that people are the way they are. They're just, believe me, I deal with the worst. But by the same token, in this field, I've met some of the best people I've ever known. And I'm going to see a bunch of them tomorrow at the conference. Very good, decent people who work in this field, and they don't make much money at it. They just do what they got to do. They believe in this. They're not here for a grift. They're not frauds. They're doing what they got to do. And then I've met a lot of really great people and got to know them. That's why whenever I give their stories, I'll talk a little bit about them and who they are, because that is the essence of what it is to be human. I'm relaying to you that these are human beings just like you that are having these very crazy and pivotal experiences in their life. And they have these scary things that happen. And it's not that uncommon, believe it or not. Paranormal eventually is probably just going to become normal, because this is what we go through. This is the reality we live in. And people who think that there's this box that we all live in and everything's a big joke or a game, they're going to learn real quick. One day it's going to come real fast. Boom. This is real. Oh my gosh. Heaven's real. Hell's real. It's all real. Maybe I should have quit playing around and messing with this and grifting. Maybe, maybe not. Ball's in your court, man. It's up to you. Do what you got to do. All right, folks. Thank you. We had a great time, and thank you for listening. And like I said, if you want to watch the replay or whatever, you can just skip the last 30, 40 minutes, whatever, if you don't want to hear me talk. But we're going to change the title because we didn't get into too much of we just talked about some weird stuff. Yeah, for sure. Reincarnation and my experiences with it. I've never talked about it before. I haven't. And I poured my heart out today, and I told what happened to me. So thank you for being patient and listening. We love you, and good night.